Chapter 249 Insights. Chapter 249 Insights. The victory of this second-rate clan battle goes to the Luo clan. A profound heaven stage expert in a robe flew on stage and gestured at Luo clan's 12. The crowd broke out in a thunderous applause. This is Luo clan's 28th win. I cannot believe they are a third-rate clan. Yeah, and their best man is yet to appear as well. People say their steward Zhuofan is on the same level as the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix. He is hailed as Tianyu's 7th dragon, soaring demonic dragon. What? If Luo clan is so strong, why haven't I heard of it? Why is it stuck being a third-rate clan? Oh. People displayed immense shock in the stands, while many were whispering about the mysterious power behind such a strong underdog. Meanwhile, a few familiar faces stood at the highest point in the stands. The veterans of the martial world would instantly recognize these shocking figures. Weren't they the 7 houses representatives, 6 dragons and 1 phoenix? Ha, what third-rate clan? That brat duped us. Even facing a top second-rate clan, they won cleanly. If this was a third-rate clan, who would be a second-rate one? Right, Ninger? The woman was none other than Xuaningxiang, from the newest Sword Marquis Abode's vassal clan, the Shui clan. She wasn't paying attention to Xie Tianyang, however. Having eyes fixed on the stage, why isn't Big Brother Zhuo here? Isn't he joining? Ninger, why do you always have to mention him? It hurts. Xie Tianyang's mood went sour. Xie Tianshang, sitting next to them, sheathed his cold blade in the scabbard and said, "It seems the rumor is true. The soaring demonic dragon is no longer a part of this world." What rumor? Xuaningxiang was anxious. Xie Tianshang spoke coldly. 5 years ago, they say Zhuofan chanced upon Lightning Canyon and is buried there. What a pity, I really hoped to meet such a highly praised man. Now I can no longer see his strength for myself. Brother. Xie Tianyang cut him off, but it was far too late. The damage was done. Xuaningxiang's tears threatened to burst as she shook her head. Nonsense. Big Brother Zhuo can't be dead. Ninger, calm down. He's only missing. No one has found his body yet. Xie Tianyang was trying to patch things up, but Ninger glared. Brother Tianyang. Why didn't you tell me? Xie Tianyang sighed. I didn't want to see you so sad. Ha, just for that? You should have told her sooner rather than prolong the agony. Don't you know that prolonged longing will only make a woman's pain deeper? The 3 looked back to see Long Jie and Long Kuei along with an exuberant youth walking up to them. Squinting, Xie Tianshang's scabbard crackled in his hand. Veiled Dragon Pavilion's Abyss Dragon. Long Xingyun. We finally meet. Please don't. We're all allies here. Don't pull your sword at our first meeting. Long Xingyun noticed Xie Tianshang's thirst for battle and waved frantically. Xie Tianshang snorted and tightened his grip on the hilt of his sword. Suppressing his battle lust, humph, sorry. I can't help but want to pit myself against an expert when I meet them. Please disregard my rudeness. Long Xingyun was sweating. He had heard of this martial fanatic, but he didn't think his illness was so serious. You aren't going to go after me after chopping the enemy, are you? Sighing, Long Xingyun turned to the Luo clan on stage. I've heard of the soaring demonic dragon Zhuofan's resounding name and hope to see him. A shame I will never have the chance. Why do you say that? You also believe Big Brother Zhuo is dead? His body hasn't been found. Ninger shouted. Shaking his head, Long Xingyun turned solemn. The lives that Lightning Canyon robs are left without a corpse. If his fortune was the same as Uncle Joe, surviving that disaster, he would most likely appear here. But after 28 fights, he is still missing. The first 27 fights were nothing, but the last one was only won by using all they had, even if they were unharmed. If he didn't appear even now when it matters the most, I fear he's gone from this world. Shuddering, Xuaningxiang was far from just believing this, but her heart knew the truth. With everyone around telling her so, she couldn't help but think the same as well. And this only worked to make the pain worse. Xie Tianyang clenched his fists and bit his lip, hating himself for being powerless. By the way, do you guys think that the Luo clan without Zhuofan is worth being our ally? Long Xingyun suddenly spoke. Xie Tianshang shuddered and spoke. In my eyes, ally or whatever doesn't matter. Whether they are worthy of a challenge or not matters. Ha ha ha, that's a martial fanatic for you. Long Xingyun laughed and admired him. Xie Tianyang was glum. I don't care what you think. Me and Zhuofan are brothers, and even if he isn't here, I hope to see Luo clan leave this place safely. Second young master sure is milder among the two. Long Xingyun smiled, but Veiled Dragon Pavilion's ally is Zhuofan. Without him around, the agreement is void. Whether the Luo clan can hold on to the agreement, it will rest solely on their performance. I fear, however, that they will never achieve it. Long Xingyun gestured to the front. Look, without the care of that demonic dragon, most of the savage dragons have them in their sights. Second young master, are you capable of stealing the dinner from the claws of those savage dragons? Xie Tianyang's group turned to look in shock. Four figures suddenly showed up across from them. Hell Valley's specter dragon Yu Yushan. Xie Tianshang's eyes trembled at the sight of a man in gray. Marywood's forest fleeting dragon Lin Xianfeng. Xie Tianyang looked at another gravely. And also Pil King Hall's plague dragon Yan Bongyi. Long Xingyun pointed at a youth with half a face purple. They say he went insane cultivating his poison, and this is the result. And with his poisonous constitution, even without Yan Song or Yan Fu's achievements in alchemy, his mastery of poisons far exceeds vicious Pil King's. He is a fearful man, but far from the strongest. Long Xingyun's face turned grave, and even a hint of fear was present as he gestured at the last man. The real monster, Regent Estate's heaven-shaking dragon lord, Huangpu Qingtan, is present as well. Ka! A sharp sound came from Xie Tianshang's scabbard, his eyes glinting. Long Xingyun smiled dejectedly. This martial fanatic, does he not know what dreadful existence that man is? How is he so eager to challenge him at first glance? I just can't tell if these blockhead allies of mine are a blessing or a calamity. Meanwhile, Huangpu Qingtian's four also glanced their way but were calm as water. Even Huangpu Qingtian's eyes only spared them a cursory glance. That Zhuofan still hasn't shown himself. Huangpu Qingtian stared at the Luo clan. Lin Xianfeng giggled. Eldest young master, are you that eager to smash someone? No, I'm only curious why Sir Lung holds him in such high regard. Huangpu Qingtian crossed his arms. This world is yet to see a man worthy of my attention. I hope that kid would make an exception. Eldest young master is truly a hero among heroes. You must really want to fight that kid. Lin Xianfeng jumped right in with his ass-kissing, only to get a sharp look from Huangpu Qingtian in return. Lin Xianfeng, watch your tongue. This world doesn't have anyone worthy fighting with either. Only some temporary targets need destroying. I only want to see if that man is worthy of killing him myself. If he can't even amount to that, he will be left to you guys to handle. Lin Xianfeng shivered and nodded. The other two sneered. This brat is usually crafty, but this time's ass-kissing only reached the feet. Picking up on the two's mockery, Lin Xuanfeng's felt rage inside. Then his eyes lit up and proposed, eldest young master, why don't I test the Luo clan? Zhuofan is bound to show up then. And if he doesn't, we'll simply end them. Do it. Huangpu Qingtian's curt nod cut him off. Then the other laughed as he vanished. Xie Tianshang's group watching from afar was also gone. Huangpu Qingtian paused. You two go as well. Perhaps the 6 dragons fight will happen earlier. Understood. The two glanced at each other and were gone, leaving only Huangpu Qingtian standing alone with a sharp gaze. This was all in response to Lung Wuchang's judgment of this time's esoteric debate. It may just be a guess, but was enough to make this man take it seriously. Because Lung Wuchang had never said something like this to him ever before. That implication of not wanting to see Zhuofan was a lie. As a man of great power himself, even if conceited, he had to make things clear. Only by snuffing out the cradle would allow ultimate peace to descend. Chapter 250 Picking a Fight. Chapter 250 Picking a Fight. Young miss, young master, good work. The people began commending the shocking power of the Luo clan's 12 with a round of applause as they left the stage. Captain Pang rushed over and expressed his thanks as well for the two's work, watching them with great regret. If only he was younger, he would be joining and fighting alongside them as well. Luo Yunchang nodded, not able to speak from how weary she was. Captain Pang didn't dally anymore, and led them to a bench to rest. He then turned to the 10 guards with praise. "You've done well today. I will surely remember it." The 10 youths nodded, but their faces showed not a twitch, as if they were frozen in time. Luo Yunhai panted and sighed as well. "Captain Pang, just how did you train them? These young guards are even more dauntless than most people I've seen in the army." Young master, there are some things you don't know. These guys are trained by me according to Steward's training regimen. He said that great soldiers are good when fighting back, but these fellows are men willing to lay down their lives for the Luo clan when it matters the most. Captain Pang sputtered with great pride the feats of these kids. But then he froze and looked at the silent Luo Yunchang in distress. Luo Yunchang's hand tightened and her eyes glistened in tears. Luo Yunhai glared at Captain Pang. "We asked about their training, so why are you talking about sacrifice?" Captain Pang slapped himself till he was red, then cursed. "It's my rotten mouth to blame for making young miss feel such sorrow again." "Captain Pang, I don't blame you." Luo Yunchang stopped him from blaming himself. 5 years without so much as a word. Elderly did say that he is definitely alive, but from the look on his face, not even he believed those words. If he were still alive, there was bound to be some news at this point, not total silence. Tears started trailing down her cheeks. Luo Yunhai felt her pain as Captain Pang sighed, not knowing how to reply. The Luo clan didn't want to accept Zhuo Fan's death, but they had no choice in the matter. At that time the entire clan was in mourning. How did that saying go? Misery loves company. Their so-called allies had changed their stance, and their support was waning. They were abandoned when the clan needed the most help. Many times Luo Yunchang wished to show the world their radiant stage experts. Zhuo Fan was gone, but the clan still held strong. Luo clan had the power to face the 7 houses. But Luo Yunchang was reminded every single time of Zhuo Fan's decisive stance, of keeping their cards hidden even from one's allies. This made her snuff out that reckless thought. She thus burned with even more desire, to prove to them who Luo clan was, in the esoteric debate. Especially to their allies, that they are worthy of their constant support. No matter what, she had to lead the Luo clan into the final battle. Taking a deep breath, Luo Yunchang wiped her tears and steeled her will. She stood up. "Come. Grand Elder is waiting for us." Luo Yunhai and Captain Pang looked startled at the leaving delicate figure. With Zhuo Fan gone the past half a decade, and Luo Yunhai in the army, all the weight of the clan rested on the young miss shoulders. And the talks with their allies were the most taxing. She didn't have Zhuo Fan's cunning, nor his brashness. But on this path, her weak and fearful self slowly rose to the challenge, meeting the houses head-on. Within the fake civility, with all that back and forth, she grew to be an imposing figure. But only she knew the taunts, mocking, and misery she had to endure. Sighing, Captain Pang and Luo Yunhai followed after her. The 3 soon arrived with the 10 guards at the exit of the fighting stage. Lei Yuntian was there waiting for them, along with the profound heaven fakes. Yunhai Yunchang, congratulations. You won 28 times in a row. Lei Yuntian cupped his hands. Luo Yunchang raised an eyebrow. "Uncle Lei, you knew we'd won even when you were outside." "Of course. With such a resounding applause, how could I not know? I've heard it so many times these days that my ears have swollen." "Ha ha." Lei Yuntian was cheerful. Luo Yunchang chuckled as well as they walked with him to their accommodations. "Uncle Lei, how about we make a different sound tomorrow, since your ears are swollen?" "No need. I like this one very much, ha ha." They talked with the setting sun behind them, cheerful about tomorrow's victory. Among the 10 young guards behind them there were also the profound heaven fakers. Their power wasn't much to talk about. Even one of the young guards could finish them off. But that swag and pose had their intended purpose, to shock and awe the bystanders. Holy hell, the Luo clan is truly an underdog. They raised 20 profound heaven experts. They are as strong as the 7 houses. Though none realized looks could be deceiving, these elders were paper tigers, mere toys to scare children. But just as Feng Choubai said before, showing them off was their strongest suit. Whoosh! Suddenly, a breeze passed by Luo Yunchang's charming figure. She felt her ear and her face changed. What's wrong, Yunchang? Lei Yuntian asked. Luo Yunchang was confused. And my earring's gone. Sister, did you lose it? Luo Yunhai looked around and shouted, everyone, my sister lost her earring. Please help us find it. They all started looking around for the young Miss earring. Just then a funny laughter reached them. Haha, idiots, here it is. Ding. A sharp ringing sound was heard, and they all looked in the direction of a creepy man in robes holding an earring. Luo Yunchang cried, that's mine. Mary Woods' forest fleeting dragon Lin Xianfeng. Luo Yunchang was quite shocked. All eyes were now on that man. Was this one of the strongest disciples in Tianyu? One of 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, forest fleeting dragon. The cheerful mood had long been replaced with heavy silence. Even those 20 profound heaven fakes felt their scalps go numb. These guys were no match for the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, even if they weren't fakes. Even among profound heaven experts, the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix were the best. Why was this Lin Xianfeng suddenly approaching them? Was he picking a fight? What are you doing picking a fight with us? Aren't you from the 7 houses? Aren't you afraid of shaming yourself? This was on everyone's mind. Lin Xianfeng looked at Luo Yunhai in provocation. Such a remarkable godson that old guy Dugujantian has gained. You recognize me with just one look? Of course. We may be soldiers, but the Godfather has told us about the renowned figures in Tianyu. Luo Yunhai straightened his back and shouted, and you? What do you think you're doing? This is Dragon Cloud City and it is time for the esoteric debate. The houses and clans are forbidden from making a ruckus. Are you challenging Marshal Dugu's order, and is that why you're blocking our way? Stop scaring people with that old guy's name. I'm not everyone. Lin Xianfeng mocked, kid. Do you know why the old man told you about Tianyu's strongest? It was to warn you that even he can't offend some people. It was something for you to watch out for. That order is for the average clans only, not for us, the 7 houses. Luo Yunhai seethed from anger. You dare to openly go against his order? See when I report to Marshal and he puts you in your place. Haha, you gullible pup. I just told you that old man won't interfere. Laughing, Lin Xianfeng flashed right in front of Luo Yunchang in the next blink. He took in her perfume, shook her other earring and snickered, gorgeous, mind spending the night with me? Blushing, Luo Yunchang's face was a mask of anger as she sent a slap. Pervert. Whoosh. Lin Xianfeng was back to his original place before the slap made contact. Ha ha ha. This is all Luo clan amounts to? You could not even find someone good enough to touch my clothes, but you dare showing off in Dragon Cloud City? Men together. Lei Yuntian snapped. Oh. His cultivation was now in the 5th layer of the profound heaven stage, reaching Lin Xianfeng in a blink and striking with his finger. As for those profound heaven fakes, they had no choice but to join as well. In the face of the incoming finger, Lin Xianfeng only grinned. Then the oddest thing happened. He vanished into thin air and the 20 profound heaven fakes behind Lei Yuntian were knocked out one at a time. Lin Xianfeng then returned to his spot, but Lin Xuanfeng's finger still hadn't arrived. He let out a bored yawn and with a light grip, snuffed out the lightning on the finger. Too slow, I've already finished fighting. Lin Xuanfeng's kick sent Lei Yuntian flying. Spurting blood, Lei Yuntian fell before the siblings. Only now did the 20 profound heaven fakes collapsed, actually lasting a second more than Lei Yuntian. They had long been knocked out. Such speed. Gasping, Luo Yunhai's face turned solemn. He knew Lin Xianfeng was fast, but even he didn't think it'd be to this extent. It was as if he defied the laws of time and space. He didn't catch any of Lin Xuanfeng's movements, and it looked as if he had always been standing there. But he knew that Lin Xianfeng had put everyone out of commission in a flash. Without a second thought, Luo Yunhai jumped in front of his sister. Luo Yunchang was solemn as well, glancing at Captain Pang and getting ready to face their great enemy. The power of the 6 dragons wasn't something they could contend with. They were all wishing from the bottom of their hearts that that person would come. Ironically, this was where the both sides' thoughts aligned, with Lin Xianfeng hoping for the same thing. Chapter 251 Dragon and Phoenix Battle. Chapter 251 Dragon and Phoenix Battle. Is the soaring demonic dragon truly dead? I mean, this would never have happened if he wasn't. Unless of course he is the biggest coward out there. Giving others a mocking glance, he punctuated with a sneer. Luo Yunchang's heart trembled. He's after Zhuo Fan. The guy assumed Zhuo Fan was watching from the shadows around here somewhere, and decided to stage this play to draw him out. When in fact the reality was much crueler. Zhuo Fan wasn't even here to begin with. The Luo clan wallowed in mourning and Luo Yunchang snapped back in indignation. Since when did an outsider get the rights to butt into the affairs of our steward? Ha, looks like you hold Zhuo Fan in quite a high regard. Although, would it even make that much of a difference if he were here? A nobody who some no-name clans call soaring demonic dragon, one who can barely stand up to our level, the level of the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, doesn't deserve my attention. With a spark of cruelty in his eyes, Lin Xianfeng flashed right in front of Luo Yunchang's face. The group jerked back in fright. He's so fast. Too fast. They didn't even sense him move. Especially Lei Yuntian, who sucked in a cold breath. Both were of an equal stage in strength, that of the profound heaven. And common knowledge told him a difference in speed could exist but not to the extent of a gulf. Yet Lin Xuanfeng's brazen display proved that the 6 dragons were in a league of their own, even if they were only profound heaven experts. Snickering, Lin Xianfeng touched the smooth and delicate chin of the frightened Luo Yunchang. Young Miss Luo, if we were to take this somewhere private, wouldn't that steward Zhuo end up working under me in the end? Are you willing to come along? Don't touch my sister. Luo Yunhai snapped, sending a flying kick at him. Lei Yuntian and Captain Peng joined him by punching. Lei Yuntian flickered like lightning, while the dark energy around Captain Peng turned him into an unstoppable raging machine. Get your filthy hands off, young miss. Lin Xianfeng couldn't care less about their bravado, to the point he even disregarded them completely. With Lei Yuntian leading the charge, Lin Xianfeng simply swished his wrist and Captain Peng tumbled forward. Captain Peng rammed into Lei Yuntian and the two coughed blood in their flight. To the mere 3rd layer of bone-tempering Luo Yunhai, this was even more disdainful. A simple rise of his leg followed by a casual step ended the kid's attack. Ah! Luo Yunhai's wailed out of pain from having his leg bone bend under the guy's foot. Luo Yunchang rushed over Yunhai. She didn't make it, however, as Lin Xianfeng was quick in seizing her wrist and grinning like a demon. Young Miss Luo, will you cooperate now? Luo Yunchang bit her lip, her eyes teary as she clenched her fists in hatred. Seeing her so stubborn, Lin Xianfeng snickered as he put more weight on his foot. Ah! Luo Yunhai made his pain known again. But he cut off his screams abruptly despite the agony. He chose to hold it in, although it was clear from his purple face that it took all he had not to keep screaming. He couldn't scream, or his sister would have no choice but to agree, and the Luo clan's name would go up in flames. His training in the Dugu army taught him how to shed away the weak young master persona, and become a true man of principle. Oh, quite the tough one, I see. Raising an eyebrow, Lin Xianfeng eyed him viciously, and put more power in his stomp. The sound of crushed bone jarred everyone's ears, but Luo Yunhai only gnashed his teeth as sweat soaked him. No matter how much it hurt, how pale he got, he didn't make a sound. Lei Yuntian and Captain Peng were enraged at this, yet couldn't even twitch as their bodies were seriously hurt as well. As for those profound heaven fakes, they were rooted in place and shivering from pain. They had no intention of showing off anymore. After biting the dust once, they simply closed their eyes shut. Even as imperial guards, they had never offended the 7 houses, least of all now. Although the young guards had guts, even they'd think twice after being knocked out cold from just one slap. Luo Yunchang felt her brother's pain. So much so her teeth were threatening to break under the strain of her clenched jaw. She was caught in the middle, whether to choose her clan's honor or save her younger brother from the torment. Lin Xianfeng roared as he yanked her wrist. Talk? Are you going to give in and make me Zhuo Fan's master or not? Humph, are you worthy? Luo Yunchang scoffed back. Compared to him, you're nothing but discarded dung, unfit to even carry his shoes. Lin Xuanfeng's eyes twitched and he backhanded her. Have it your way then, skank. Luo Yunchang showed no fear at the incoming blow. The others wanted to help but were unable to even move. All they could do was watch him humiliate their young miss. Whoosh! And right then a white ribbon shot at Lin Xianfeng. He was forced to give up on his attack and flickered away. The ribbon passed through the air and went back. The source was tens of meters away from the Luo clan's siblings. Lin Xianfeng spat back as he watched the white ribbon fly away. Ascending Ice Phoenix Chu Qingcheng, this is none of your damn business. Beat it. Humph. Drifting Flower City will never allow anyone to harass women. A white figure along with Iris and Peony overseers walked over. Her elegance and her demeanor both pictured her as a celestial. Not even her veil could mask the outstanding beauty she possessed, to the extent that it left even Luo Yunchang speechless. Is this Chu Qingcheng? She is just like a goddess. Then she noticed the two overseers and her whole face lit up. Sister Iris, Sister Peony. When Zhuofan was reported missing, perhaps because they were all women, while meeting with her allies, Luo Yunchang and the two hit it off. The two liked Luo Yunchang as well, treating her like an angel. Unlike that devious and devilish Zhuofan. It was only natural that the three were practically sisters now. The overseers rushed to her in worry. Yunchang, are you all right? Luo Yunchang nodded her head with a smile and went to help her brother and Captain Pang. The overseers supplied them with pills to offer relief. Chu Qingcheng only stared daggers at Lin Xianfeng. Lin Xianfeng scratched his nose as he said in good nature, Chu Qingcheng, this is no drifting flower city, so try to keep your nose out of another's business. Habit. Chu Qingcheng scoffed and chuckled in mockery. Lin Xianfeng laughed back coldly. Then you'll have to forgive me for what I'm about to do. Lin Xianfeng flickered, putting Luo Yunchang and her group on edge. Iris and Peony overseers held her hand to ease her worries. Only this time Chu Qingcheng intervened. A white mist rose between her hands, swiftly spreading around. Wherever the mist passed, a layer of ice formed. Lin Xianfeng slowly became suspicious as the mist coiled around his figure. His speed was clearly affected as everyone had no trouble seeing him anymore. Shocked, Lin Xianfeng got some distance between them. He trembled a bit and the ice sheet on him crumbled off, but the fear in his eyes was more than apparent. Frost Domain. Did your soul reach the radiant stage? Lin Xianfeng cried incredulously. He felt how Chu Qingcheng's frost spread along her discerning field and acted as a barrier. Any that stepped foot in it would find it impossible to escape her notice, regardless of speed. It was a sign of imminent breakthrough into the radiant stage. Once her frost domain became an invisible divine sense, that would be when she'd attain the true form of discerning field. And just like Zhuofan, she had the prospect of entering the radiant stage. As for killing with intent, it wasn't that far away either. His face growing colder, Lin Xianfeng said, I heard you wasted 10 years of your cultivation. Who knew you'd recover so fast? Chu Qingcheng, you are worthy of being among the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, albeit barely. I extend my admiration. Then get lost if you know what's good for you. I am in no mood of stirring something up before the true battle between the 7 houses. Chu Qingcheng glanced over. Lin Xianfeng was pissed and his face was a mask of hatred. Then he broke out into a grin, accompanied by him snickering, Chu Qingcheng, you're a bit full of yourself. Not even you are enough to deal with me. Whoosh! With a boom, Chu Qingcheng felt a wind on her back and felt a slap coming her way. The 2 palms met and Chu Qingcheng put all her power in it to repel the attacker. When she noticed her palm, it was covered in green. It was lucky that she had formed a layer of ice beforehand. The ice made from yuan qi fell on the ground, sizzling like acid and releasing a foul stench. Chu Qingcheng held her nose and jumped back startled. What dreadful poison! Looking up, she noticed the attacker was a man with half his face purple, and said, Plague Dragon Yen Bongi. Chapter 252 The Dread of Huangpu Tianyuan. Chapter 252 The Dread of Huangpu Tianyuan. Ha ha, you old poisoner. About time you showed up. Any later and I'd have had to go all out. Lin Xianfeng roared in laughter, walking next to Yen Bongi, while raising a taunting look at Chu Qingcheng. Yen Bongi was simply silent. The only sign he had that seemed to acknowledge the man was the bloodthirsty cold stare. Heart-jumping, Chu Qingcheng grew serious. 6 dragons and 1 phoenix's power was the strongest in the profound heaven stage. Besides Huangpu Qingtian, there wasn't much of a difference in the other 6 power. She could deal with Forest Fleeting Dragon, Lin Xianfeng, but her hands were tied with Yan Bongyi in the mix. The others picked up on this and grew nervous. Lin Xianfeng puffed up his chest and laughed, ha ha ha, Ascending Ice Phoenix. Now that we are 2 against 1, I reckon what your chances will be. Chu Qingcheng tightened her fists in response. Ha ha ha, you're among the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix. Yet you have no shame going 2 against 1? What will you say to 3 against 2 then? The others jerked and saw Long Xingyun and Xie Tianshang's groups arriving. Xuaningxiang looked at Luo Yunchang. She gathered her courage and showed a bashful smile. Young Miss Luo, are you all right? Luo Yunchang chuckled a nod but was quite perplexed. Who is this girl? I don't even know her, so why does she care so much about me? But when she noticed the thunder ring, she realized that Zhuo Fan wore the same one. To that ring. This is our engagement ring. Xie Tianyang butted in, showing his own without an ounce of shame. It was precisely for this occasion that he had Zhuo Fan make one for him as well. Glaring at him, Xuaningxiang stammered an explanation. Young Miss Luo, don't misunderstand. This is nothing between us. Brother Zhuo simply gave a token to each of us. Oh, I see. Luo Yunchang nodded in disappointment and vexation. That guy never gave me anything. Chu Qingqing's ears perked up and she whipped her head back, feeling quite down herself. Grandmother said he is heartless, yet he suddenly grew a conscience? Humph, damn philanderer. Long Xingyun got next to Chu Qingqing and stared at their opponents. I wonder, who among you will spar with me? Humph, stand back and leave them all to me. Xie Tianshang stepped in front. His sword sheath moved and his piercing gaze landed on his enemies. Like sharp blades, the two had a very real cold and sharp feeling on their necks. Long Xingyun almost face-bombed. This guy's martial fanatic obsession is out again. Though this is a very good opportunity to see how reliable he really is. While their side got bolstered, the enemy's side was tense. Now that the tables had turned, they were the ones at a disadvantage. Ha ha ha. It's 3-on-3 in fact. A laughter followed when a gray figure popped out before Lin Xianfeng. Their tension eased. Chu Qingcheng frowned and spat. Spectre Dragon, Yu Yushan. It is I. Yu Yushan nodded and turned to his own allies. Eldest young master was right. 6 dragons and 1 phoenix were bound to fight earlier. Ha ha ha, in this case we are even. What's there to fear? Lin Xianfeng cackled, having recovered his cockiness. Chu Qingqing's side waited solemnly. With a metallic sound, Xie Tianshang's sword left its sheath. You two pick someone else. These 3 are mine. Young Master Xie, can you take them on all by yourself? Chu Qingcheng frowned in worry. Hardening his gaze, Xie Tianshang made up his mind. How else can I challenge Huangpu Qinggan? Brother Xie, I don't care about the other 2, but leave Yu Yushan to me. Long Xingyun stepped up with a hard face. Veiled Dragon Pavilion and Hell Valley's grudges can only be settled amongst ourselves. Ha ha, perfect. I was thinking the same thing. Let's see what Veiled Dragon Pavilion's Abyss Dragon is made of. I'll make sure whether Hell Valley has overestimated you or not. Yu Yushan laughed with sparks flying as their gazes met. The scene was close to a breaking point. It was missing but a spark to devolve in an all-out war. But then a shout came, stop! Whoosh! 4 men appeared between the 2 sides, eliciting murmurs from the others. For Tigers of Tianyu. Seniors, Marshal Dugu forbids any grudge fights in Dragon Cloud City. The 7 houses are no exception. Please comply. Dugu Feng cupped his hands at the 6, his tone very cold. And yet another shout came, Brother Yunhai. Dugu Hua noticed Luo Yunhai on the ground, and knew at a glance that his leg was broken. His short temper was already burning as he raved. Who did this? 3rd brother, it was Lin Xianfeng. Luo Yunchang spoke in a pleading voice. Please, elder brother, help us. Dugu Hua's face heated up as he roared like a beast. Anyone who harms our family is dead. Eldest brother. Quiet. Dugu Feng cut him off with a glare, then continued. I hope that we can all let this matter rest. If Marshal were to step in himself, it won't simply end with words. The rest stared at him fixedly, then nodded slowly. Dugu Zhantian was the second of the 4 pillars. They had to show him some respect after all. Fine. It's such a pity though that I didn't get to show them my prowess. We'll just have to wait for the decisive battle of the houses then. Lin Xianfeng shrugged and mocked. They hadn't lost in this exchange anyway. The rest looked at each other and nodded as well. Dugufeng eased his breath and walked to Luo Yunhai. Yunhai, please forgive me. No, I understand that the eldest brother had to dissolve the situation. Luo Yunhai's eyes were firm. Past 5 years in the Dugu army had him grown accustomed to the meaning of military. In order to reach an objective, sometimes personal honor had to be sacrificed. Taking a deep breath, Dugufeng patted his shoulder, feeling his pain as well. His little brother was pushed around, and what did the eldest brother do? Nothing. All because of his orders. He was a soldier first and foremost, a Dugu army's general. The other tigers sighed as well, filled with just as much rage as him. Oh, isn't the situation over yet? A sudden voice came, lofty as an emperor's, carrying might with every word. They all turned to see the most dreadful among the 6 dragons. Heaven-shaking dragon lord. Huangpu Qing'an. Eldest young master, this is what happened. Lin Xianfeng looked like a dog as he explained in brief. Huangpu Qingtian nodded, yet his face was always calm. He stepped forward and said, since Shuofan is a no-show, hurry up and kill the Luo clan. If such a crucial event doesn't warrant his coming, he must be dead for sure. The others jerked in fright. Huangpu Qingtian was going to go against Dugu Zhantian's orders and kill the Luo clan. Young Master Huangpu, Marshal is against any grudge fights. Are you? Dugu Feng blocked his path and shouted, but Huangpu Qingtian only had disdain for his attempt. Grudge fight, war. They all describe armed conflicts between 2 equally strong sides. But none of you are even worthy of a grudge fight. So erasing someone weak doesn't violate any order. Such crass. The people were shocked once again by this man's egotistical behavior. Whoosh! Suddenly, a sword light came down from above, straight for Huangpu Qingtian. Xie Tianshang was filled with fighting spirit as he shouted, Huangpu Qingtian, I've waited 10 years for this. Flowing spaces, 9 forms splitting heaven. 10 years? Then you waited for nothing. He walked just like before, and yet in the face of the upcoming sword attack, he only replied with a casual palm attack. Boom! The sword wave splintered and an almighty power slammed into Xie Tianshang's chest and sent him flying while coughing blood. The way Huangpu Qingtian put away his hand was as if he flicked away a pest. A mosquito, so casual, so dismissive. Not even his gait changed. SSS. All watched in stunned silence how he dominated Xie Tianshang. Not even Xie Tianyang conceived it possible for his invincible brother to be so easily dealt with by heaven-shaking dragon lord. Oh! Everyone said Huangpu Qingtian was a monster, but how could there be such discrepancy from the rest of the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix? The others couldn't even put up any resistance. The hearts of everyone sank in despair. Huangpu Qingtian was an untamable mountain as he stepped towards them. Although slow, his step carried such power that it was as if he was stepping on everyone's hearts, crushing their spirit and will. Chapter 253 Demonic Dragon's Appearance. Chapter 253 Demonic Dragon's Appearance. The heavy pressure pressed down on all and they flinched back again and again. Yet Huangpu Qingtian was still strolling forward, like a king on a mission. The air was excruciatingly thick, hard to even breathe. The dread on everyone's face only increased with every sound of Huangpu Qingtian's steps. Monster! It was on everyone's mind, yet none dared say it. Lin Xianfeng, Yan Bongyi, and Yu Yushan observed coldly. The stronger Huangpu Qingtian was, the more at ease they were, and respectful. Huangpu Qingtian, think this through, or you will suffer the consequences. Dugufeng wiped his brow. Among his peers in Tianyu, heaven-shaking Dragon Lord was the first to scare this leader of tigers. Nodding, Huangpu Qingtian never missed a beat. Relax, I'm not after you, the 5 tigers' lives. I still have to show consideration for Marshal Dugu. As long as you come out unharmed, he will not charge into Regent Estate. So taking Luo clan's young Miss Head with me won't make that old geezer snap. The four tigers felt eerily afraid and worried. Huangpu Qingtian was not only high on his horse, but quite astute as well, a schemer and plotter. He grasped Dugu Zhantian's bottom line, and knew when to stop just shy from it, even if he was about to cause a massacre. Correct, Dugu Zhantian cared most about his 5 godsons. He was tough on them, true, but he cherished them dearly as well. If anything were to happen to them, the old guy would flip and march his army regardless of consequences. Everyone had a bottom line, and the second of 4 pillars, Marshal of Third Army, was no exception. Even though Luo Yunchang was the dear sister of his 5th godson, not even for her would he go into action. She had nothing to do with him. Knowing this, Huangpu Qingtian acted unrestrained and unfeeling to others. Young Miss Luo, run. Go find the marshal. You'll be safe there. Go while we hold him off. Dugalin whispered. Luo Yunchang was worried for Luo Yunhai. Dugalin said, "Don't worry, Yunhai is our brother and godfather's godson. Huangpu Qingtian won't ever touch him. Go, we won't be able to hold him for long." Luo Yunchang took one last look at her brother and nodded. She was relieved but still hesitant. Just then a soft hand grabbed her into a run. Looking back, it was actually Xuaningxiang. "Sister Luo, Brother Zhua always called me a burden. Let's see him say that again after I save his clan's young miss." Xuaningxiang stuck out her charming and cute nose as she smiled. Seeing this cutie, Luo Yunchang's worries drifted out of her. She didn't know how Zhuafan got to meet this girl, but the girl was like an angel, easing her worries. Lin Xianfeng snickered from afar. "Running, is it? Did you ask me first?" "Wait, don't sour the eldest young master's mood." Yu Yushan blocked him with a sneer. He now realized that without Huangpu Qingtian's explicit approval, none could do anything. When the man was on the prowl, only horror would have awaited him for meddling with his hunt. Lin Xianfeng wiped his brow and nodded. Yu Yushan beamed in reply. "Thanks, dude. If not for you, I would have been a goner." "No thanks necessary. I'm not doing it for you either. With Huangpu Qingtian's temper, I fear you'll take me down with you." Yu Yushan snickered. Back to Huangpu Qingtian, he didn't much care if the 2 girls broke into a run and shook his head. A hare always thinks it can outrun its hunter, only to find its efforts go in vain. Huangpu Qingtian punctuated with chasing after the 2. The 4 tigers rushed to intercept with 4 palms: wind, forest, fire, mountain, imperial army. Smiley face is original. If you have a better suggestion, I'm all ears. Boom. As if a dam broke, the power swept everything like a literal army. Although it was only 4 palms, it was as if tens of men joined hands. Not even Huangpu Qingtian could ignore it, feeling the sudden and forceful might boring down on him. Huangpu Qingtian grinned. "A formation. A pity it's too low grade." And he punched. Without any preamble, just this plain punch contained almost godly power. The boom sent the 4 tigers flying as they bled from their mouths. Now they felt on their own skin why Xie Tianchang was so badly wounded after just one attack. Because Huangpu Qingtian was no human. How can our peer, in both age and cultivation, have such power? But the crux of it all was, their so-called stalling was pointless. Huangpu Qingtian simply barreled through them unimpeded in his chase after Luo Yunchang. It was as if stepping on ants in passing. Whoosh! Suddenly, a whistle announced the incoming claw attack, below Huangpu Qingtian's belt. It was so devious, so sneaky, it caused everyone to gasp. Veiled Dragon Claw. Smiley face. I have no clue if it's a declaration of an attack or Huangpu saying it's useless. Long Xingyun's eyes glinted as he arrived in the man's path. Huangpu Qingtian laughed coldly. Veiled Dragon Pavilion gets worse by the day. You only got so far through underhanded and crafty methods. Ian, this is what I know best. Long Xingyun snickered, not minding it in the least. Huangpu Qingtian disregarded him, and was planning on kicking him away. It was then he found it odd that his leg didn't move. A shining ice sheet crept up his legs and rooted him in place. He then saw a dainty palm, filled with mist shooting from above. Chu Qingcheng. Unable to move, Long Xingyun clawed him from below, and Chu Qingcheng attacked from above. It was the perfect combo to subdue an enemy's movements while also unleashing a pincer attack. Squinting, Huangpu Qingtian snorted fearlessly. I see. You laid a trap for me with Frost Domain while the 4 tigers blocked my path. Not bad at all, I will give you that much. But, Papa. 2 loud noises echoed as Chu Qingqing's palm slammed into his head and Long Xingyun's claw hit from below. Although despicable, it was a strong attack nonetheless. And yet, no one expected what happened next. 2 peak profound heaven experts could do nothing against one with equal cultivation. Chu Qingqing and Long Xingyun stared in shock and sucked a cold breath. Just how strong is this monster? Huangpu Qingtian curled his lips. A pity. You are too weak and overestimate your strength. Despite his words, his eyes flashed. Then with a boom, his body exploded in a golden light and roared like a dragon. A golden dragon rose from him, sending the pair flying and coughing blood. It then circled back into his body. What is that thing? Long Xingyun watched Huangpu Qingtian perturbed, as did the rest. It was as if his body held a guardian. Grinning, Huangpu Qingtian mocked. It is the heritage of an emperor. You are not worthy to know. Huangpu Qingtian then chose to ignore him, leaving him sitting on the ground in shock and bleeding at the mouth. Whoosh! With no one left to block him, Huangpu Qingtian went after the girls. They looked back in shock to find Chu Qingcheng, Xie Tianshang, and Luo Yunchang, as well as the 4 tigers of Tianyu wounded on the ground and unable to even get up on their feet. Despite the intense fight, it only took a second. The gap was so insanely wide that all that effort didn't stall Huangpu Qingtian for even a fraction of a second. How is there such discrepancy between him and the other 5 dragons and 1 phoenix? The 2 were now panicking from fright. Huangpu Qingtian was like a relentless monster. No one seemed to be able to escape his clutches. Ninger, watch out! Xie Tianyang roared, as he and Long Jia with Long Kuei jumped in front. But what could they do when 5 dragons and 1 phoenix could do nothing? The answer? Nothing. With a mere flick, Huangpu Qingtian sent them flying, landing heavily on the ground. Snickering, Huangpu Qingtian extended his hand. Young Miss Luo, this palm of mine will splatter the both of you. If Shuofan doesn't show even now, he is definitely dead. Or maybe just a lily-livered good-for-nothing coward. Rubbish. You're the real coward. Brother Zhua is a hero. Ninger cursed. Luo Yunchang was giving her all to run, but still nodded at Ninger's words. Grinning, Huangpu Qingtian mocked. I hope so too, but at this point he seems likelier dead than alive. Huangpu Qingtian struck with his palm. It looked casual, but the might behind it was that of a mountain. The girls were scared to even run, watching the incoming palm with fear. Everyone wanted to help them, somehow save them, but no one had the strength. Sister! Luo Yunhai cried and crawled. Ninger! Xie Tianyang was doing the same with clenched teeth. Huangpu Qingtian looked on coldly as his attack approached the girls. Ha ha ha, Shuofan is really dead after all. A shame you all had to die for nothing. As he defied region to state, I had no choice but to waste my time with this puny Luo clan. You only have Shuofan to blame for your fates. It was he who cut your young lives short. Luo Yunchang and Ninger remained silent. Xie Tianyang punched the ground, reminded of how powerless he was back in Blue Expanse City, and cursed. That bastard Shuofan. Why does he always wash his hands off every offense he ever does? Now Ninger is giving her life away for nothing. Bastard, come out if you have any shred of conscience. Lin Shuangfeng's group found his cursing entertaining. So Shuofan really is dead. Or this would never have happened. No, Shuofan is not dead. Luo Yunchang shouted back. Huangpu Qingtian's attack was about to hit the girls, then call him out. Show me that he's alive. But it's too late now. No one can save you from my attack. Tears streamed Luo Yunchang's face. Shuofan, if you can hear me, please come. At least let me see you one last time. She was on the brink of death, yet no response came. Lin Shuangfeng's group laughed harder at her futile attempt and treated her like a fool. Ninger held her close instead, even if her heart had the same feeling. Useless. Die in peace. Whoosh. Huangpu Qingtian's palm attack sped up and the girls felt their breaths caught in their throat, picturing the gory mess they would soon become. Luo Yunchang closed her teary eyes in pain and sorrow. Why couldn't I see Zhuo Fan one last time? Ninger was praying for a miracle, the same miracle that saved her in Blue Expanse City. Will anyone save us? Crack. Suddenly, Xie Tianyang and Ninger's thunder ring flickered and the two cried. Zhuo Fan! Big brother Zhuo! Boom! Too little, too late. Huangpu Qingtian's palm struck down, destroying even the ground below them. Xie Tianyang watched the aftermath in a daze, slumping powerless as tears flowed from his eyes. It was now that a carefree voice entered their ears. Were you looking for me? Chapter 254 Another Monster. Chapter 254 Another Monster. A shiver ran through Huangpu Qingtian and his knuckles turned white. He turned like the rest to where the voice came from. To see a figure in a billowing black cloak, wielding a sword of unmatched edge, yet sheathed for now. But that could not hide the dread and power it instilled in the hearts of all present. Especially when he held two girls in his arms, the same ones Huangpu Qingtian was about to kill. How? The mangled bodies and the torn limbs were nowhere to be seen. How were they still in one piece? Did this man just do the impossible? Did he save them without even Huangpu Qingtian noticing? That's absurd. Who could ever pull such a feat such as saving someone from right under heaven-shaking Dragon Lord's nose? And at the last second too. Not even the feeding feet Lin Xianfeng could pull it off. Who the hell is this guy? Eyes filled with shock and intrigue graced the black figure. Not even Huangpu Qingtian could stop his eye from twitching. It was a rare sight to see him lose his voice. Because it had never happened to him ever. Once the haze passed, Luo Yunchang was still trying to make sense of everything. 1 second she was staring death in the face, and the next she was in the arms of a robed man. Xuaningxiang didn't fare any better, but the familiar flickering forced her eyes on the man's hand, on the sparkling thunder ring. Big brother Zhuo, you're all right. Her words earned the gasp of the crowd. Easing them down, Zhuo Fan smiled and pulled back his cowl to reveal the same familiar face that some cherished, some hated, and some reviled. Yes, sir. He was the one and only soaring demonic dragon, who made sure to leave chaos in his wake wherever he went. Zhuo Fan. Smiling to Xuaningxiang, Zhuo Fan showed a rare calmness. Ninger, it's been a while. Xuaningxiang nodded a smile, lowering her bashful face. Xie Tianyang was still crawling and couldn't for the life of him decide which was better, life or death. He was thrilled that Xuaningxiang was safe and sound, but the deep gaze Xuaningxiang gave Zhuo Fan made him feel his life was over. Ninger, why have you never looked at me like that? Bam! Zhuo Fan stumbled forward and held his butt. He snapped back irate, young miss, what's wrong? We haven't seen. His words soon stopped though, because Luo Yunchang was looking at him with teary eyes and a reproachful glare. You are asking me? What about you? Where the hell did you run off to for the past 5 years? I was worried sick. Luo Yunchang raved, but she couldn't mask the joy bursting from her chest as she forgot where she was and jumped into his arms, her tears falling non-stop. She wanted to hold him close to her heart and never let him go. Zhuo Fan was caught unprepared, not knowing how to even respond, but ultimately deciding to hug her back. Xuaningxiang felt a stab of pain from deep within her heart. She should be happy to see Zhuo Fan again, so why the pain? But the sight of this young miss holding Zhuo Fan so close seemed to make her heart frantic. Chu Qingqing was no different. Zhuo Fan was the husband she recognized back in Drifting Flower City. And here he was spreading his love. However reasonable and perfectly natural her brain told her this reunion was, her heart was another matter entirely. The pain was far greater than any wound she had ever received. 2 women's love aside, the 4 tigers of Tianyu felt their hearts literally crack. Young Miss Luo pined for someone else. That makes the 5 years we carried a torch for her go down the drain. We even fought among each other over her. This blasted and rotten Steward Zhuo is a clan thief in the truest sense. He even stole young Miss' heart. And yet worries soon gave way to joy. Watching such a touchy reunion, Xie Tianyang's mouth split into a wide grin. As long as Zhuo Fan has a woman, Ninger will be devastated. The perfect time to make my move. Whether it is Chu Qingcheng or Luo Yunchang, who cares? Ha ha ha. Xie Tianyong was laughing his heart out, on the inside, totally forgetting the precarious and quite deadly situation they were in seconds ago. For even a fifth layer of bone-tempering woman to kick your ass, soaring demonic dragon's reputation is undeserving. A brash and cocky voice burst Luo Yunchang's bubble of happiness. She came crashing down to reality, reminded of the danger they were in. She jumped away from Zhuo Fan, wiped her tears and like the perfect image of a little girl, dodged behind him. Steward Zhuo, keep me safe. Her coy voice was enough to melt the four tigers' ice-cold hearts, which were now bursting out of their chest in rage and rancor directed at the newly arrived man, Zhuo Fan. What does young Miss Luo sees in that Steward Zhuo? Isn't he beneath her? Glancing back, Zhuo Fan was puzzled. Since when did this last learn to throw a hissy fit? It's not a bad idea though. Ha ha ha, eldest young master, this guy doesn't look like much. He's only in the 9th layer of bone-tempering stage. He couldn't even break through to the profound heaven stage. Fighting him will only harm your image, so allow me to do the honors. Lin Xianfeng laughed. Huangpu Qingtian nodded. The brat is right. If this is all Zhuo Fan amounts to, there's no need for my intervention. But in case Zhuo Fan was pulling his punches, it might not be so bad to let this dumbass test the waters. Huangpu Qingtian smiled. Suit yourself. I'll allow it. Thank you, eldest young master. Lin Xianfeng snickered at Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow and turned to Luo Yunchang. Who are these guys? Luo Yunchang gave a rushed explanation. Getting the memo on who was who here, Zhuo Fan realized how powerful Huangpu Qingtian was. He alone dealt with Zhuo Fan's 3 allies and the 4 tigers of Tianyu, yet was still so composed. Actually, he's dreadfully powerful and Zhuo Fan would never have fought him in the past. As for now Zhuo Fan grinned deviously, his brain already cooking the beginnings of a plan. Luo Yunchang brightened. Being so long in Zhuo Fan's presence, she knew his tells, and the confidence he showed now was more than a little reassuring. So without further ado, she singled Lin Xianfeng out. Steward Zhuo, ignore the others and teach this prick a lesson he never forgets. Zhuo Fan asked, puzzled. What's so special about him? He had errant intentions about me. Luo Yunchang was wishy-washy, holding his sleeve and acting like a big child. It unleashed a cuteness overload attack on everyone's heart. Zhuo Fan blinked, giving her another look. Young Miss has changed. She finally started to work out her naivety. And since the young Miss had spoken, it was a steward's duty to comply. Whether its request was real or not was besides the point. Zhuo Fan switched his tone in the blink of an eye and stared down Lin Xianfeng. Forest fleeting dragon Lin Xianfeng, you must be tired of living. You had the nerve to go after my young miss. Ian, it's not my fault that Luo clan has no men. Pa! He didn't get to finish his sentence as something knocked him flying. He went through 4 houses before getting buried under the rubble. Zhuo Fan was a whole 100 meters away. His eyes aflame as he lowered his hand. Bastard, you dare say that with me here? Go to hell. The silence was deafening. They stared slack-jawed at him. Even heaven-shaking Dragon Lord was stunned. What just happened? They were 100 meters apart. How did Zhuo Fan slap him away? The one under the rubble was from the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, Lin Xianfeng, the fastest man in the profound heaven stage. Be it an attack or a hidden weapon, anything thrown at the guy was easily dodged. That was all thanks to his speed. As for melee attacks, you couldn't even touch the man. Yet here was Zhuo Fan, flicking his hand and sending the speedster flying. If that wasn't shocking, what else was? But what was really on everyone's mind was, how did he do it? No one noticed anything. He moved so fast, it went beyond their perception, including heaven-shaking dragon lords. If a monster like him couldn't catch what happened, didn't that make Zhuo Fan a monster himself? Their eyes watching Zhuo Fan turned from shock to fearful. Xie Tianshang muttered to himself before sighing. Soaring demonic dragon's reputation precedes him. What an oddity. Long Xingyun was dazed. I now know why father allied with the Luo clan. Why little Kuei and little Jia were so driven to cultivate. This monster gives too great of a shock. But will only cultivation be enough to catch up to these 2 monsters? Long Xingyun shook his head. Chu Qingcheng watched the imposing figure with a deep gaze. But then recalling his ties with the other girls ruined her mood. Chapter 255. Almighty Ability. Chapter 255. Almighty Ability. Rumble. Lin Xianfeng rose from under the ruins with a bloody mouth and spat what seemed to be blood along with a tooth mixed in it. He looked towards Zhuo Fan, but this time he wasn't as carefree as before. Soaring demonic dragon is a mystery in and of himself. He didn't even get a chance to react and was sent flying. What's more, Zhuo Fan did it offhandedly. If he hadn't pulled his punches, would he even be alive right now? More importantly, the opponent's speed was creepier than his. The speed he prided himself with turned out to have no use whatsoever. Lin Xuanfeng's fear of Zhuo Fan only grew stronger. Yu Yushan and Yin Bongyi rushed over. While looking at Zhuo Fan distraught, they had heard the rumors about the infamous Zhuo Fan, but seeing was believing, of how demonically dreadful he was. No wonder this guy caused chaos among the 7 houses, yet was living nice and happy. His power is even weirder. With a dismissive wave, Zhuo Fan acted as if all was natural, and turned to Luo Yunchang. Young miss, will you be content with such a punishment? Should I give him a kick as well? Lin Xuanfeng's heart jumped and he shivered a step back. Having gone through that light slap, the forest-fleeting dragon of the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix was shaking in his boots. No one would ever believe it was possible, but the truth was undeniable. Huangpu Qingtian scared him into submission with diplomacy and might. Zhuo Fan, on the other hand, did it through brutality. They were at such a level, not even the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix could mess with any of them. Luo Yunchang now picked up on Zhuo Fan's words. His display was so frightening that even she was dazed. No need. He only lacked manners when speaking with me. A slap is enough. Lin Xianfeng eased a breath, grateful even. Young Miss Luo, you're the best. But Luo Yunchang's next words had him on the verge of wetting himself from fear. As for the matter regarding Yunhai, Luo Yunchang pointed at her brother on the ground and then pleaded Zhuo Fan with big eyes. Steward Zhuo, they harassed your young master. You can't let this matter stand. Zhuo Fan's face hardened. Noticing the half-grown-up Luo Yunhai had his leg broken and his bloodthirst spiked. Who did this, young master? Luo Yunhai shook his head helplessly. With Zhuo Fan missing God knows where, his sister had to take over clan matters. Her gentle and kind sister had gone through so many negotiations with her allies that it had changed her initially weak standpoint to the unbendable one of today. Having negotiated so much, patting down, faking and being stubborn came easy. She has turned as tough and as unreasonable as Brother Zhuo. Especially sharp in using her female attributes to look weak and have others do the work for her, or drive a wedge. Now that Big Broj was back, she feels left out, yet still couldn't hide all the charm she gained from those years of handling the clan's negotiations. And Zhuo Fan? Everyone here knew Zhuo Fan never took things lying down. He was even more cunning and insidious than Luo Yunchang. Looking at it in a different way, Luo Yunchang's style was all thanks to Zhuo Fan's influence. Luo Yunhai, having lived in Dugu army, knew how to gauge a situation and when to stop. He waved, it's nothing, Brother Zhuo. I'm happy to know you're all right and that you came back. What nothing? Yunhai, has the army messed with your head? Forget about enduring it like we did before. Brother Zhuo's back and we're not about to take this anymore. Right. Luo Yunchang turned to see a shocked Zhuo Fan looking back, as if he didn't recognize her. She blushed and went back to being a meek and cute kid, isn't that right? Young miss, have you lost it? Blinking, Zhuo Fan broke out in sweat. When did the young miss become so shrewd? But that didn't mean he didn't like the change. In a world where strong prey on the weak, compassion would only get one killed. Regardless of the fact whether it was a good reason to fight back or not, he still had to do it to some extent. That was Zhuo Fan's creed and style. The world wasn't ruled by reason but by might. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed. Listen to your sister. When I was gone, I couldn't help even if I wanted to. But since I'm back, there will be no compromises, or I'd be a steward for nothing. They all could sense the thick bloodthirst in his voice. Luo Yunhai was silent. All men shuddered inside, admiring Zhuo Fan's flair. while the girls swooned. Even the always ticked-off peony overseer had to admit he struck a reliable figure with unmatched charm. Never mind. Yunhai must be troubled as well. Luo Yunchang sighed and once again changed her style as she clung to Zhuofan's arm and grumbled. He did it. He broke Yunhai's leg. Him again. Raising an eyebrow, Zhuofan swiveled to Lin Xianfeng. It seems a slap was too light for you. Swallowing dryly, Lin Xianfeng reeled 2 steps back, soaked to the bone in sweat. Yan Bongyi and Yu Yushan were vigilant on either side of him. Of this generation, besides heaven-shaking Dragon Lord, only Zhuofan could instill such fear in them. Pa! Huangpu Qingtian's light step put him right in front of Zhuofan. Had enough. Oh, you want to stop me? Raising an eyebrow, Zhuofan showed his trademark evil grin. Huangpu Qingtian was as calm as ever, not minding Zhuofan's tone the least. You're overthinking things. No one has managed to surpass me, and you're no different. The crowd watched all tensed up. Huangpu Qingtian is on the move. And this was the first time that he acted out of his own initiative to block someone. He didn't say it, but his stance was clear. He acknowledged Zhuofan's strength. Only when facing a true opponent would he stand in front of them. His earlier attacks were casual because none of them were worthy of his attention. Zhuofan was the exception. This only worked to put pressure on the crowd, eagerly watching the two monsters' first contact. Xie Tianshang was bitter and lonesome. All the martial fanatic in him ever wanted was to have a face-to-face match with heaven-shaking Dragon Lord. A pity he was sorely lacking in power. Lin Xuanfeng's group breathed easy. With the boss taking a stand, this kid will no longer threaten us. And yet, scratching his head, Zhuofan grinned at the casual Huangpu Qingtian. You think so? Whoosh. Zhuofan vanished. Huangpu Qingtian didn't have time to even appreciate the novelty of the situation, as Zhuofan's chuckle came from 100 meters away. He was right before Lin Xianfeng. Ha 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 kid, you hurt my young master. Pay up. Lin Xianfeng was scared witless. When did he get past Huangpu Qingtian and come here? He couldn't even get one step away as Zhuofan's purple lightning-enveloped leg hit him squarely in the gut. He flew for tens of meters. The purple lightning was torturing his body until he spat blood. His organs were in a seriously damaged state. SSS. An all-around gasp was heard. His allies Yan Bongyi and Yu Yushan stood rooted in fear at Zhuo's display. But after Lin Xianfeng was kicked off, they struck back with a palm. Zhuofan vanished again, appearing next to the twirling Lin Xianfeng in the sky and clutched his leg with a demonic smirk. Kid, you broke my young master's leg. I think taking away yours sounds pretty fair. Lin Xianfeng was panicking inside. He didn't even get to beg as Zhuofan followed through with his threat. Ghostly dragon claw. Rip. Blood spurted like a fountain, followed closely by Lin Xuanfeng's wail of agony. Zhuofan threw away the leg he just tore off. Huangpu Qingtian was shocked. This is the first time his face changed and he wanted to help. But then a voice came from behind him. Young Master Huangpu, weren't you going to stop me? What are you doing showing me your back then? Shuddering, Huangpu Qingtian felt a trickle of sweat on his scalp. He turned stiffly to find Zhuofan still there, calm and snickering. While on the other end, Yan Bongyi and Yu Yushan found that the target of their attack had been switched to each other. They were sent flying and blood spilled from their lips. However, that wasn't as important as the look Zhuofan was getting. Zhuofan did all that in a breath. It wasn't a stretch to call it an instant. He came and went 3 times in that short time span. He kicked Lin Xianfeng, then ripped his leg off and finally came back to his original spot. He did all that to those 3 men. Because it all happened too fast, Huangpu Qingtian had no way of even intercepting. It was the same as Zhuofan proclaiming, "Nothing is out of my reach." The looks of shock were as if they saw an abomination. Even Huangpu Qingtian was doing it. For the first time ever, this man felt powerless. Chapter 256 Hindrance. Chapter 256 Hindrance. Wiping his brow by instinct, Huangpu Qingtian seemed calm, but turning to Zhuofan, he had lost his casual stance and became grave. Although he was a very conceited person, it didn't stop him from admitting that today he had met his match. It seems I can't let my guard down around you. Huangpu Qingtian's tone dropped and he stared at Zhuo Fan like a hunter. Grinning, Zhuo Fan said, "Oh, so that's what you've been missing so far? Are you ready now?" With another creepy grin, Zhuo Fan was gone. He popped before Yan Bongyi and slapped him while cackling. "Then I'll go after your sidekick's head this time." Yan Bongyi panicked. He never thought Zhuo Fan would pick on him. He got flustered while defending and released his poison. Since when could a hastily made plan repel Zhuo Fan's long-ready palm strike? Moreover, his poison hardly worked on the likes of Zhuo Fan, who could just use demon transformation art to dispel it. But before his attack could land, Zhuo Fan squinted and was gone. Boom! Huangpu Qingtian was looking at rubble. It was where Zhuo Fan and the two girls had stood but was now littered with dust. Zhuo Fan reappeared 100 meters away holding the girls while giving heaven-shaking Dragon Lord the evil eye. Huangpu Qingtian snickered back like I said. "You can't get past me." Zhuo Fan clenched his jaw and his fists. Huangpu Qingtian was no muscle brain and quite cunning as well. Zhuo Fan wanted to relieve Yan Bongyi of his cumbersome head as an affront to this man. But this guy knew he couldn't give chase and settled for targeting Luo Yunchang and Xuaningxiang. Forced to save them regardless of how fast one was, he had to abandon his tricks. Yan Bongyi was scared out of his mind as he watched them. He didn't want his fate to have such an untimely ending. The fright was so intense, he felt he had lost a decade of his lifespan. Yu Yushan was affected as well, seeing the two dragons on the brink of a war and bolted. Only the crippled Lin Xianfeng was left behind wailing on the ground. Not that anyone had a mind to pay him any attention when they were focused on the two monsters. They all wanted to know who was going to be the champion in the esoteric debate. Anticlimactic as it were, finding the result so early. Holding a girl in each arm, Zhuo Fan's eyes glared with anger at Huangpu Qingtian. If earlier he was just messing around, he was now focused. The girls caught on to the situation and ran far away to not disturb their battle. Huangpu Qingtian grinned in excitement, sensing the change in Zhuo Fan. Facing an opponent like Zhuo Fan couldn't be more thrilling. Wrapped in a golden light, his power surged and he was putting pressure even on Chu Qingqing's group despite how far they were. Huangpu Qingtian's power dominated the scene, just like how a king showed his presence. Zhuo Fan's stance paled somewhat, but the faint black energy rolling about, the flickers of purple in his eyes, spoke of a deep power laying hidden, waiting for the emperor to come close so he could wring his neck. It gave everyone a feeling of danger never sensed before. The onlookers felt their heart in their throats, yet they couldn't budge an inch. Imperial Tyrant Body Art. Huangpu Qingtian shouted and 9 golden dragons twisted around him before shooting for Zhuo Fan. Seen from afar, it was as if the sky was coming down to pulverize the earth. Such mighty power could be felt even by the audience. Is this how much of a freak he has become? Is this the level of Huangpu Qingtian's profound ranked martial art? All swallowed dryly in shock, waiting nervously for Zhuo Fan's reaction. Laughing, Zhuo Fan's eyes had a golden ring with purple lightning streaking in them, and charged as well. Roar! A draconic roar followed the image of a black dragon growing around Zhuo Fan. But the streaks of purple lightning around it caused the earth to rumble incessantly. It was as if the end of days was coming. While others cried in shock, Huangpu Qingtian's eye trembled, because of the power Zhuo Fan displayed. This martial art was no weaker than his 9th stage of Imperial Tyrant Body Art. As far as the eyes could see, the two mighty powers created a stark and conflicting contrast. Huangpu Qingtian was bathed in golden glow, like an emperor gracing the world with his presence. Zhuo Fan, however, was in the form of a black dragon wrapped in purple lightning, threatening to tear the world asunder. If Huangpu Qingtian was a natural-born emperor, Zhuo Fan was his antithesis, a necrotic dragon ready to defy any ruling that was imposed on him. These two are fated enemies. Xie Tianshang sighed. The others nodded. They were unclear, however, who was it that would come out on top. Heaven-shaking Dragon Lord or soaring demonic dragon? They all looked perturbed at this scene. Perhaps the esoteric debate would be cut short here and now. Perhaps Regent Estate's millennium-long reign would come to an end. The 6 houses were witnessing history in the making. Soaring demonic dragon. Imperial tyrant body art. Roar. Roar. With 2 mighty roars, Zhuo Fan and Huangpu Qingtian's dragons were on a collision course. But a 3rd roar resonated from between them, followed by a blue glow. The 2 were forced to slow down their attacks. Because the blue glow came from none other than the 2nd of 4 pillars, Martial Dugu Zhantian's 6th grade spiritual weapon, Dragon-slaying Crescent Blade. A mighty figure drifted from the sky and landed between the 2. He caught the 2's wrists and flung them into the air. Bam! Zhuo Fan and Huangpu Qingtian's outrageously powerful martial arts hit nothing, and instead each of them were buried in rubble. When they crawled out and got their wits about them, the aged and mighty Dugu Zhantian stood in all his majestic form before them. I will have no grudge fights in my Dragon Cloud City. You 2 bastards take me for air? Dugu Zhantian's eyes snapped on Huangpu Qingtian, causing his breath to catch in his throat. He was prideful but no fool. He was overbearing among peers, and even if he skipped stages he'd only fight the average Radiant stage expert. In the face of Dugu Zhantian, the general who reeked of blood and battle, he was subdued. I won't ever violate Marshal Dugu's orders again. Huangpu Qingtian admitted his wrongs. His face was calm however like a king's. Dugu Zhantian's anger had nowhere to vent since he didn't want to tangle with Regent Estate. So he turned to Zhuo Fan and barked, Zhuo Fan, where do you think you're going? The man in question was skulking away like a thief in the night. He sighed at having been caught, but putting on a bright smile the next instant, he said, ha ha ha, Marshal Dugu, how's it going? Please show consideration for my young master. He's right over there. Cut the crap. I knew you were still alive and have been waiting for this. Dugu Zhantian mocked him the instant he spouted hypocrisies. But where did you run off to this time? What trouble have you stirred up? When did you arrive? And how is it that you're already giving me trouble? Today actually. Zhuo Fan scratched his head shyly. But then he squinted and pointed at Luo Yunhai. Oh Marshal, this is totally not my fault. Look at my young master, your godson. Someone broke his leg. I was only doing my duty as the Luo clan's steward. Say what? Dugu Zhantian took in the sorry state this place was and found his 5 godsons on the ground, with Luo Yunhai feeble from the blood loss due to a broken leg. Dugu Zhantian's eyes went bloodshot as he roared. Who did this? I'll never let you go. They did it, Marshal Dugu. Please give our young master justice. Zhuo Fan pointed fingers instantly at Huangpu Qingtian of course. Zhuo Fan was the picture of a good servant having the backing of his faithful master. Luo Yunchang added her 2 cents in the form of a grieving sister. Please Godfather, please give my brother justice. Taking a deep breath, Dugu Zhantian's eyes spat fire as he glared at Huangpu Qingtian. Chapter 257 Killing with Intent. Chapter 257 Killing with Intent. Huangpu Qingtian, why have you harmed my godsons? Dugu Zhantian barely contained the beast raging inside. Huangpu Qingtian was calm. Because they were in my way. And why were they in your way? They carried out Marshal's orders to prevent me from having a grudge fight. Tightening his fists, Dugu Zhantian's eyes spat fire. In other words, they aren't at fault here. No, they aren't. Dugu Zhantian was about to blow a gasket. Huangpu Qingtian said coldly, I also said that they are not fit to enter a grudge fight with me. Not when they're so weak. Therefore it does not fall into defying Marshal's order. As for my fight with Steward Zhua, that was indeed a grudge fight. But your 5 sons were already down by that point. So it can be said that they weren't hurt from doing their duty. Huangpu Qingtian knew Marshal Dugu was a man of integrity, so he used sophistry, saying that the 5 tigers had voluntarily, and of their own volition, stepped in his way and he thus inadvertently harmed them while running through them. Although pedantic, Dugu Zhantian was no moron to not notice the way he shifted blame. His eyes only grew colder as his knuckles popped. What you're saying is that my godsons were wounded without your intention. Precisely so. They ran into me and wounded themselves. Huangpu Qingtian jutted his chin and spoke righteously. And what of my 5th godson? What happened to his leg? And don't go saying he broke his leg running into you. Dugu Zhantian's eyes were bloodshot. his voice rumbling and thick with bloodthirst. Shaking his head, Huangpu Qingtian said, "That wasn't me, it was Lin Xianfeng. Out of respect for you, Marshal, I was extremely lenient on your godsons." "Where's that Lin Xianfeng then? I have a score to settle with him." Dugu Zhantian's eyes darted around. With a slow stretch of the hand, a finger pointed out the gasping Lin Xianfeng. Huangpu Qingtian said, "Marshal, there's no need for that now." Steward Zhua had, in front of everyone, taken matter into his own hands on behalf of his master. Is Marshal still going to continue? Ugh! Dugu Zhantian spotted the pool of blood in which the pale face of the crippled Lin Xianfeng lay. His anger washed away in an instant. The guy was on his last leg, quite literally given the circumstances, and even if saved, he'd be left a waste. His fate was far worse than his godson's. He suddenly felt awkward even in the wrong, as if he was the accuser in this case, especially when they were worse off than his side by a dozen times. Zhuofan of course didn't think so. Availing of Dugu Zhantian's presence, he was giving his very best in blowing this sky high. "Oh well, Marshal, don't listen to his lies. You have no idea of the cruelty and harassment he put us through. When I arrived, the four had ganged up on my young master, humiliating and trampling him. My loyalty to my master is unquestionable, coming to his rescue at once. But I was also a victim of their assault. It was impossible for me to fight the four alone, leaving me riddled with wounds. Out of carelessness and sheer coincidence, they made a mistake and lost a leg. But we are the victims here, we were the ones abused. Please give us justice, Marshal." Zhuofan's voice took a mournful and stuttering tone, filled with pain and agony. "They saw our clan small and weak and decided to harass us. They are low and despicable people." Everyone there spurted blood. Even Huangpu Qingtian's face twitched. Even he, with his upbringing, was finding it hard not to flip out. What's with this guy? He twists everything. Although cunning, his speech was based on sophistry. Yet never had he seen someone of Zhuofan's ilk, running his mouth and spouting such outrageous lies. "You rotten bastard! Look around you. Look at the witnesses. How can you be so despicable?" Oh. Despite his perfectly reasonable thinking, Luo Yunchang also picked this time to add oil to the fire. Steward Zhua downplayed it slightly, out of worry for the Luo clan, but this is indeed the situation. "Please help us, Godfather." With another round of blood from the crowd, all eyes were on Luo Yunchang. The hell? What is young Miss Luo doing copying Steward Zhua? Sigh, another one falls under Zhuofan's bad influence. It was followed by a round of sighs and head shaking. "Oh, you poor thing. Coming from an upright clan yet unable to escape this man's devious corruption." Luo Yunchang and Zhuofan shared a sly grin. Face twitching, Dugu Zhantian already had a taste of Zhuofan's grandstanding and wasn't buying it this time. Then again, this is the perfect chance to get back at Regent Estate. So Dugu Zhantian nodded. "I see, Huangpu Qingtian. I have banned grudge fights and yet you all started harassing the weak with numbers. A much viler act than a mere grudge fight. Is this what you thought of my orders? I will take this matter to each of your houses and get a thorough explanation from them." "Marshal, you only heard his side." Huangpu Qingtian was flustered for the first time. Raising an eyebrow, Dugu Zhantian's eyes gleamed. "Oh, one-sided? Ha ha ha, all right then, let's see what the witnesses say." Dugu Zhantian turned to the ones on the ground and asked, "What Zhuofan said, is it true?" They looked at each other, clearly getting his drift. Since Dugu Zhantian was siding with Zhuofan, of course they nodded. Especially the 5 tigers of Tianyu. These guys were quite frank and upright but not dumb. Of course they'd help their kin. Face twitching, Huangpu Qingtian was swept by anger. "They're clearly aiming for us. Marshal, I thought you were a righteous man, but now I see." Huangpu Qingtian clenched his fists and jaw. With a bright smile, Dugu Zhantian mocked, "See what? You heard them. Is there anything you would like to add?" "Humph, they are clearly siding with Zhuofan while on our side Lin Xianfeng had his leg ripped out." Huangpu Qingtian was finding it hard to restrain his towering anger, evident from his loud voice. Dugu Zhantian roared back, "You have one victim while they are all down. So whose side is the real victim here? Who was it that harassed others with their power?" Are you so damn blind? Huang Pu Qingtian's eyes twitched. He had never been so furious in his life. Most of all, never ever had he been taken advantage of. Yet here against Zhuo Fan, he could do nothing as the man had spun a trap around him. Even Du Guzhantian was against him. He who had always seen himself as a king, an emperor, was now reaching the limits of his patience. Soaring demonic dragon, your title sure is apt in going after me. Heaven-shaking dragon lord. Humph, we'll just have to see how you will end. Huang Pu Qingtian squinted, then up and left. He knew arguing any longer would be a waste of time. Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow and pointed at him. Marshal Duger, you're just gonna let him go? He just threatened me. My poor little life is on the line here. A sudden ripple spread and Du Guzhantian jumped in front of Zhuo Fan, releasing a ripple of his own. A boom reverberated as the space warped visibly. Huang Pu Qingtian snorted at Zhuo Fan in anger. Soaring demonic dragon, you're lucky this time. But when the esoteric debate starts, when the seven houses battle, hope you'll have the same amount of luck then. And he took his two allies while dragging Lin Xianfeng with them. Du Guzhantian looked at him in shock. This kid. He is a peak profound heaven expert yet can use killing with intent that only a radiant stage expert can use. He truly is the #1 talent in Tianyu. His future is limitless. The others jerked in fright. Huang Pu Qingtian had long surpassed them. He was on a whole different level. The next time they meet, they might not even come out alive. Against killing with intent, no amount of speed would help. Zhuo Fan only chuckled, a mere bluff. Du Guzhantian towered behind him and cuffed him. What damn bluff? That's power. Do you have any idea how dangerous that was? I know you're a body cultivator and perhaps can win in a brawl against him, but that was a soul attack, killing with intent. You'd never even realize when your life was taken from you. I see no way for you to win against that monster. Du Guzhantian eyed them and sighed. The others frowned and sighed as well. Zhuo Fan had given a thread of hope to all, but now it was all crushed to dust. No one beneath a radiant stage could survive an intent attack. Zhuo Fan had his freaky ability, but not even that would save him. Yet the man in question hardly cared. He had stopped caring for as long as 5 years ago. Chapter 258 Conscription. Chapter 258 Conscription. Du Guzhantian had some soldiers take the wounded to the marshal's residence for immediate treatment. Yet none of them noticed a spindly figure further away, watching them. Upon closer look, one would identify him as unwanted contriver Lung Wuchang, Regent Estate Steward. Lung Wuchang twirled his mustache as he kept watching. Zhuo Fan in particular. This kid is not as heartless as I thought. It had been 6 hours since they arrived at the marshal's temporary residence in Dragon Cloud City. Time in which the wounded were placed in a side wing and administered pills. Luo Yunchong and Ninger, the only ones who came out unharmed from this ordeal, were the caretakers. As for Zhuo Fan, he was there as well, expressing his heartfelt thanks to his 3 paralyzed allies. Thank you all for such hard work. If it weren't for your help, our clan's line would have been severed. Zhuo Fan held each of their hands. Long Jie and Long Kuei felt odd seeing the kind and gentle smile on his face. They had been arduous in cultivating these past 5 years, just so they could bridge the gap between them and this monster. And yet he just showed up, and instead of getting closer, they had only fallen farther behind. Even though this guy was still a shameless bone-tempering cultivator, how could his power be classified as one? As this was Long Xingyun's first time seeing this freak in the flesh and in action, he was quite moved. Brother Zhuo, now I see what my father was thinking. Only after seeing you have I realized how much time I've been wasting. Sigh, youth is wasted on the young. But even so, you should live your life to the fullest and take some time off to enjoy it. Ha ha ha, don't take it to heart. Zhuo Fan patted his shoulder. But the more he paid attention, the more Long Xingyun felt it was fake. Is this your way of consoling me? Xie Tianshang's eyes were filled with fighting spirit, wishing nothing more than to jump on his legs and have a go with the man. Zhuo Fan, once I'm healed, how about we have a match? Zhuo Fan blinked, completely not getting what he was going for. We just met and never have I gotten on your bad side, so why do you want to fight me? Ignore him. My elder brother is a martial fanatic. He wants to fight any expert that catches his eye. Xie Tianyang jabbed. Having known Zhuo Fan for so long, he had no qualms whatsoever. Zhuo Fan nodded. Another one. I see. Just like elderly. It's best that I keep my distance. He wasn't so idle as to waste time sparring with a martial fanatic every day. So Zhuo Fan gave him a wide berth, going over Xie Tianyang. Hey wait, you didn't answer me. Xie Tianshang watched Zhuo Fan with a fervent gaze. He was sorely wishing right now that he could just jump and exchange hundreds of moves with Zhuo Fan. But would Zhuo Fan listen? He treated martial fanatics as basket cases. Tangling with him would only net Zhuo Fan a huge waste of time. And so Xie Tianshang's grumblings were firmly and undoubtedly ignored. Zhuo Fan walked next to his little brother instead, and knocked his head a few times. Brother Xie, you did a good job today. I must say, you sure gave your all for Ninger. Zip it. My life belongs to Ninger. Rolling his eyes, Xie Tianyang was quite frank, making the nearby Xue Ningxiang blush and glare back. She was clearly signaling not to spout such things around Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan laughed carefree. Xie Tianyang's eyes turned serious, his voice tinted with worry. Zhuo Fan, do you always stand out wherever you go? You've got my Ninger to swoon over you every time she sees you. Can't you tone it down a little so I can have a shot? Shuddering, Zhuo Fan remained silent. Xie Tianyang seemed to be joking, but how could Zhuo Fan not sense the worry within? If this went on, the three's relationship would become more complicated or worse, break apart. Zhuo Fan sighed after a moment. Sorry, that's how heavens made me. If I don't show off, who else will? Just focus on getting better. Patting his shoulder, Zhuo Fan left with a stiff smile. Xie Tianyang laughed dejectedly. He knew Zhuo Fan had yet to make a decision on this and was making a tactical retreat. Or was it an attack? Although he made himself seem ruthless, who could guard against feelings creeping up on oneself? He went around spreading thanks to all the clan's helpers, including but not limited to the 4 tigers. But the tigers saw him as an enemy, something he couldn't wrap his head around as to why. I stole no wife of yours, so what the hell is with the glares? But when he reached the final patient, he spun on his leg and walked away. Stop! The charming voice came from Chu Qingcheng, who was watching him in reproach. We aren't going to even talk to me. Iris and Peony overseers were staring daggers, as if accusing him of abandoning his wife. Thank you, Drifting Flowers Edifices, for helping our clan in our desperate hour. That's not it, and you know it. Chu Qingcheng cut him off. I just want to know why. Why didn't you see me one last time before leaving Drifting Flowers City? Steeling himself, Zhuo Fan said, I killed and took what I needed. I fulfilled my goal and had no reason to stay. No reason at all? Chu Qingcheng blinked. Her pretty eyes demanded an answer. Zhuo Fan didn't know how to respond. Then a sudden giggle came. Steward Zhuo, Marshal is calling you. Leave things here to me. Luo Yunchang came over with a smile, faking obliviousness. Saved by the bell, Zhuo Fan grabbed the excuse like his lifeline and bobbed his head. Then I'll go right now. Young miss, take good care of them. And he was gone, despite the doe eyes Chu Qingcheng was giving him. Luo Yunchang turned a hard stare at Chu Qingcheng. Edifice Lord Chu, Steward Zhuo is a boor. If he has hurt you with his words or actions, please forgive him. I'll be taking care of you in his place. Luo Yunchang's words were full of propriety and good nature, but the true meaning was, he's mine. Chu Qingcheng had taken care of Drifting Flowers Edifices for so many years, since an even younger age than Luo Yunchang. How could she not hear the veiled threat? She laughed coldly. You're far too kind. Zhuo Fan's transgressions are too grave to measure. How could I possibly ask clan head to take the blame? I will have Zhuo Fan supply me with the appropriate resolution. But thank you for your offer, young miss. I.e., this is between me and Zhuo Fan. You've got no business here, so scram. Sparks were flying off between them soon after. The others looked away from the cat fight and lamented. Sigh, this is a woman's war. It's best we don't get caught in between. But Xue Ningxiang looked on in distress, feeling somewhat excluded. Going back to the culprit behind all this, Zhuo Fan was speeding towards Marshall's house across from the wounded ward in jubilation. Perfect timing. He was truly caught in the trap back there. Who would have thought facing Chu Qingcheng was more exhausting than fighting Huangpu Qingtan? He'd rather go against 100 Huangpu Qingshans than see Chu Qingcheng again. But when he entered Marshall's home, the old guy laughed heartily, putting him on high alert. Haha, you came, kid. Sit, I have something to tell you. Dugu Zhantian laughed and gestured at the chair nearby. Shuofan was on guard as he eased into the chair. Dugu Zhantian's critical eye from his seat of honor had Shuofan's hair stand on end. OL Marshall, you wanted to see me? Shuofan broke the silence. Dugu Zhantian grinned. It's nothing much. Just your conscription. Conscription? Shuofan shook his head vehemently. No. I am not army material. Find someone else. Glaring, Dugu Zhantian's beard trembled as he cursed. Cut the crap. Who on earth is born a soldier? Even that brat Yunhai got trained into shape by me. With your talents, a year tops, and you'll be taking my job. If you're so confident, go find someone else. Why do you want me? Shuofan shook his head. Dugu Zhantian sighed and his eyes were glazed with worry. It's easy to train an army, but it's so hard to find a good array master. In the field of war, there are many array masters using their skills in the form of formations. We are sorely lacking in array masters, and that has made our recent losses disastrous. Don't look at me. I'm a meathead. I don't know anything when it comes to arrays or formations. Shuofan made up a lie. But Dugu Zhantian wouldn't have it. He had looked into the kid before calling him. Such a flimsy lie wouldn't fly with him. Oh please. I already know everything. Your old clan head has long been dead, and you are the one running the show. Including the 4 5th grade arrays. Dugu Zhantian's eyes shined when he reached this point. He was sorely lacking an outstanding array master, and wanted to have Shuofan without fail. The latter felt trapped in the old guy's gaze and didn't know how to get away. He felt like crying. This was exactly why he wanted to slink through Dragon Cloud City, and never cross paths with the marshal. He already saw this coming and wanted to avoid it for as long as possible. Chapter 259 The God of War's Fright. Chapter 259 The God of War's Fright. OL Marshal, I truly cannot do this. Please find someone else. Shuofan shook his head and rose to leave. Whoosh! In a flash of blue, the dragon-slaying crescent blade was nailed in front of him, followed by why? Shuofan was in despair. Isn't it obvious? I don't want to. Since he was asked for a reason, Shuofan had to oblige. So he stuck out his neck and refused. They say that a good man doesn't enlist. Bullshit. In reply to his most eloquent words, Dugu Zhantian spat in his face. Those are the words of friggin' morons. Shuofan, you are a wise man, so how can you lower yourself to a commoner's thinking? Also, did you not take the helm of the Luo clan after the clan head's death? Looking after the siblings? Why then? I only see loyalty. Kid, your actions speak for yourself, of your loyalty and devotion. So what's the problem with being loyal to one's nation? Isn't that the same? It should be the same thing to you. Why do you insist on avoiding enlisting? The walls were quite thin here and the wounded next door heard Dugu Zhantian's raving loud and clear. Dugu Zhantian wants Shuofan in the army. But can he reign in this soaring demonic dragon? Luo Yunchang and Chu Qingcheng thought this as well. Even though their glaring never faltered, their ears were idle to pick up on the marshal's shouts. Taking a deep breath, Shuofan gritted his teeth. This old guy just won't quit. And sighed, Marshal Dugu, we are neither friends nor enemies. Please refrain from dragging me into this hell. How is the army in fighting for your nation, hell? Dugu Zhantian was stunned. Shuofan squinted and roared. As they say, after 3 years in the army, even an ugly broad would look like a courtesan. This will deal a devastating blow to my standards and ruin my prospects to raise a family. The girls in the wounded ward stifled their giggles. While Luo Yunchang and Chu Qingcheng sure had an active imagination, evident by their red cheeks. Then their eyes met and jealousy reared its ugly head. Which one of us is that punk going to take to raise a family? The 4 tigers of Tianyu and Luo Yunhai were awkward, to say the least. They've been in the army for 5 years. Did that mean their standards were out of whack? But Duguzhantian's shout came soon after to save their image. More crap. Where the hell did you hear that nonsense? How could 3 years lead to such a drastic change? The 5 in the ward nodded. Well said, Marshal. Duguzhantian then followed with, that only happens after 5 years. My 4 godsons need 6 years by the looks of them to see any girl a babe. As for Yunhai, it's too soon to tell. The 5 wanted to crawl into a corner and die. The feel of the others' eyes on them only made it worse. Godfather, enlist him if you want to, but why in God's name are you dragging us into this? It was fine and all if these old army stories helped, but all you are doing is making yourself look bad. Us as well. What a rotten godfather. The 5 sighed and buried their heads in the pillows. Duguzhantian was being serious now. None of that matters. Didn't I tell you? You'll be a soldier for 1 year, then be my staff officer. Those things don't apply to you. Why not make me one from the start? Shuafan scratched his head. Duguzhantian squinted and snapped, impossible. In my army one needs to do military service. One can only be promoted based on merits. How can I just make you one from the start? Everyone will object. But don't worry, once in the corps, I'll give you plenty of chances to show your ability, and you'll be promoted in no time. Shuafan sighed. Seeing Duguzhantian so stubborn like a hustler, he left Shuafan without a way to deal with him. Fine, but on one condition. Shuafan nodded in the end. Duguzhantian's eyes sparkled. Name it. I'll do my best to accommodate you. Marshal, would you be so kind as to lend me your status for a short month? I could get used to being a marshal myself. You think the army is a game? Duguzhantian shook his head. But then he eyed Shuafan skeptically. What for? What else? To sweep the land and pacify the empire. Shuafan roared his loyalty. Duguzhantian said in a rush, stop messing around. This army can't move as you wish. It's fine. Won't I have the appropriate rank a year later? At that time I can just kill and smash whoever and whenever. Shuafan giggled. Panicking inside, Duguzhantian now realized he had only paid attention to Shuafan's talent and not his many remarkable feats. I can't take the same approach I took with Luo Yunhai when teaching him. Or when he gets the army at his beck and call, he'd leave the nation wide open for attack. His eyes were swiveling, unclear what choice was best here. No, I can't have him fly through the ranks. I'll have to stamp out his rebellious nature in the army. Shuafan had a knowing grin. I know what you're planning. But no matter. I'm the best there is when it comes to roping someone to my side. It won't take me even a year to turn the 3 million Dugu army into the Zhua army. At that point, being a general or not would hardly make a difference. You don't say. I am giving my all here. But who knows when we will have to face Regent Estate on the field of battle. But if you think you can wrest control of one of the 4 pillars, the Empire's army, then be my guest. Shuafan laughed. I have never thought about it like that. But now, Marshal, you have to enlist me. Even if you have your whole army infected with gayness rather than some twisted broads, I'd still go for it. No. It seems someone had a change of heart. Duguzhantian was frantically shaking his hands and sweating buckets. That was close. I almost welcomed the devil with open hands. Granted he was talented, but if there was one thing he truly excelled at, it was blowing things out of proportion. In the off chance I can't tame him, the Dugu army will be under his thumb and will corrupt the Empire's greatest weapon. I better reconsider whether to let this guy in. Duguzhantian said bashfully, Shuafan, since you find enlisting to be such a pain, I won't force you. No, I think it'll be a blast. Marshal. No, I've never forced anyone to do anything in my life. It's best you stay and look after the Luo clan. Oh right, the 3 house lords are here as well. I better go see them. What about my enlistment? Shuafan shouted after the scampering Duguzhantian. Shuafan watched the mighty and awe-inspiring Dugu turn into a scaredy cat with a snicker. I get far more out of developing the Luo clan than stealing your 3 million army. Then again, having Dugu army by my side is not bad either. Shuafan mused, his eyes flashing. Duguzhantian just left the room and turned to the wounded ward. It seemed that Sword Marquis' abode, Veiled Dragon Pavilion, and Drifting Flowers Edifice's leaders were also present. They all saluted Dugu Zhantian. Thank you, Marshal, for coming to their rescue. No thanks needed. This is my responsibility, although someone else saved them in the end, while I was only a mediator. Dugu Zhantian waved. The leaders chuckled. Grandmother then frowned. Marshal, I was meaning to ask. Are you intent on conscripting Zhuo Fan? Could I ask you to postpone it until after the esoteric debate? Of course. As for conscripting, I still need to consider it. There's no need to fret. Dugu Zhantian stated. Zhuo Fan's vision of the army had scared the crap out of him. The kid seems capable of anything. He may very well have a way of turning the Dugu army into his personal army. And he wasn't about to give his army away just for one array master. Dugu Zhantian was thankful he came back to his senses and avoided a disaster. Zhuo Fan took this moment to enter and greet the House Lords. The three nodded in reply. They could finally breathe easier seeing him safe and sound. To be blunt, there would be no Luo clan without Zhuo Fan, the truest underdog. Luo clan wouldn't stand a chance in the esoteric debate, whether as an ally or enemy. But with Zhuo Fan back in town, the clan was in full force. Oh. Steward Zhuo, the entire Luo clan is injured. We can't make it to tomorrow's fight. Will you, as their steward, step forth? Grandmother smiled widely, hoping to see the miracle that was Zhuo Fan in action after a 5-year break. Shrugging, Zhuo Fan said, of course, it is my duty to represent the Luo clan. It is time for the Luo clan to stand abreast with all of you. That will depend on Steward Zhuo's first battle. Long Yifi raised an eyebrow. They all looked at each other and burst out laughing, all eager to see Zhuo Fan put on a good show tomorrow. Chapter 260 We Will Kill Zhuo Fan. Chapter 260 We Will Kill Zhuo Fan. The next day, Dragon Cloud City's fighting stage was enveloped by a roaring crowd shouting their cheers. On the stage, 2 youths stood thrilled and panting, surrounded by either dead or wounded people. The winner of today's battle hails from Crescent Sword City, the Xue clan. They are advancing to the final battle. A profound heaven expert stepped on stage and gestured at the youths. The crowd exploded with applause, raising the excitement of the two. They left the stage and walked to their cheering clan. Big brother, second brother, congratulations. Xue Ningxiang gave them a hug and a sweet smile. The two were Xue Gang and Xue Lin. After the horrors of Blue Expanse City, Xie Tianyang saved them and their clan became Sword Marquis' abode's vassal. It was the only way they could have joined the esoteric debate. Ganger Liner, you've done well. You are now ready to join the final battle and help Sword Marquis' abode's young masters in their fight. Xue Wanlong laughed with pride. Remember, never let down our clan and protect the 2 young masters. Patriarch Xue Dingtian nodded at the side. Thanks to Xie Tianyang, their clan was under Sword Marquis' abode's wing, cared for and well supplied. But this left them uneasy, and they were going to use this chance to repay their help. This was the reason for joining the esoteric debate. Xue Gang and Xue Lin nodded, filled with battle spirit. Xie Tianyang stood next to Xue Ningxiang, sighing, Uncle, why did you let the brothers join such a cruel battle? This time's battle will be far more deadly and vicious than any of the past ones. I fear. Second young master, I have made my decision. We cannot go on receiving Sword Marquis' abode's grace without giving anything back. Please give us this chance to show our gratitude. Xue Wanlong cupped his hands. Xie Tianyang sighed. The profound heaven expert on the stage suddenly said, the next fight will be between Drifting Flower City's Dong clan and Flood City's Yu clan. 2 familiar figures walked on stage. Xie Tianyang's eyes brightened. Who knew we'd see them here? Aren't they brother Dong and sister Waner? You know them as well? Xue Ningxiang was startled. Xie Tianyang looked at her instead. Ninger, how do you know them? Drifting Flowers Edifices and Sword Marquis' abode are allies. We met when the 2 houses gathered for negotiation. Brother Dong is somewhat frivolous, but Waner is very nice. Ninger smiled. How do you know them? Disciples of the seven houses hardly ever meet with people from second-rate clans. We met in Drifting Flower City. I hear that Dong Xiaowan and the kid have something going on between them. Xie Tianyang grinned, thinking of having a little payback. Xue Ningxiang looked closer at Dong Xiaowan and muttered, "No wonder she never said anything when the topic about who she likes came up." Correct, the two Dong siblings were those Dongs. Because of their ties with Zhuofan back in Drifting Flower City, and having gotten familiar with Drifting Flowers Edifice's leaders, the Dong clan had been on a swift rise. They had long outstripped the title of vassal clan, and moved to Drifting Flower City to become their trusted aide. The old master of the Dong clan couldn't be happier and stated that they had to go and see their most treasured benefactor in the flesh. Of course, such a thing wasn't so easy to achieve, not with how busy Zhuofan was. If he wasn't blowing something up, he was beating the life out of someone. The likes of him could hardly squeeze a meeting between his murderous rampage and endless mayhem. Thanks to Drifting Flowers Edifice's help, Dong Tianba had entered the Profound Heaven stage, displaying his majestic air on today's stage. In but half an hour, he and his sister won over their opponents and arrived next to their clansmen and friends. Young Master Xia, Uncle Xia, Sir Xia, Brother Xia, how do you do? Dong Tianba cupped his hands in pride. Dong Xiaowan bowed as well with a smile. The others nodded, while Shuegang had eyes only for Dong Xiaowan and her charming smile. Everyone could tell what he was thinking. Brother Xue, how have you been? I never thought our clans would enter the final battle. We will be fighting alongside, it seems, ha ha ha. A portly man came over. Dong Tianba and Dong Xiaowan cupped their hands. Dad. Xue clan greeted in kind, but only when he saw Xie Tuanyang did the old man greet back. He was the Dong clan head. Dong clan head pointed at Shuegang. Young master is of great talent. Could I be so bold as to ask if you're married? No. Xue Dingtian smiled, his meaning clear. Dong clan head nodded and smiled at his daughter. What a fine coincidence, neither is my daughter. I find our clan so friendly that I was wondering. Dad. Dong Xiaowan gave him the stink eye and was sullen. Xue Ningxiang could see herself in her and shook her head. The two already had someone and were not going to just change their minds at the drop of the hat. Meanwhile, the Profound Heaven expert on the stage said, the next fight is between Sunspire City's Hong clan and Blue Expanse City's Sun clan. Shuddering, the Xue clan turned to the stage. Blue Expanse City used to be their turf while being Hell Valley's vassal. Since betraying their patron, Blue Expanse City fell under another clan's jurisdiction. Bluntly put, the Sun clan was their replacement, Hell Valley's brand new lapdog. The Sun clan only sent a man and a woman to fight against 50 bone-tempering experts, led by 2 Profound Heaven cultivators. Such power among second-rate clans made it a seeded clan, closely approaching the qualifications to be a first-rate clan. Against such strength, the Sun clan sent merely 2, a really odd pair. Their eyes released a bloody glow, and closely resembled monsters rather than humans. Not even their appearances could be distinguished. The sight of them standing there sent shivers among many, as if they were demons who sprang out of hell. But upon closer look, they were only peak bone-tempering cultivators. 2 peak bone-tempering cultivators want to mess with 50 experts? The leading youth snickered. From your demonic look, living must have been hard and you've come for the sweet release of death, right? Ha ha ha. The others laughed as well. That demonic man, however, was wrapped in black energy as it suddenly jumped from him with a roar. A veritable fountain of blood bloomed, while the Hong clan youth fell with a perplexed look. He was still wondering how a peak bone-tempering cultivator killed him. SSS. The others gasped. Hong clan's laughter died and watched the pair of enemies in shock. How could a fresh Profound Heaven expert die in one blow? A sneak attack for sure. With a shout, the 50 men from Hong clan stormed the pair. The 2 only had a creepy grin as they turned into black mist and roamed among them. The slaughter began. Not of the pair, but of those 50 experts as the 2 crazed monsters were unleashed upon them. Wails, sobbing, and horror grated on the audience's ears. In just 15 minutes they were the only ones standing, while the corpses around them had their throats ripped out. Blood soaked into the arena and the dead stare of the bodies gave a glimpse into the cruelty they had just suffered. Xuaningxiang had long since covered her eyes. Xie Tianyang's brow was furrowed. What made these guys act with such brutality? The girl on stage suddenly snapped her head back and pointed at the Shui clan with a nasty grin. Traitor of Hell Valley, you will die in the final battle by our hands. None of you will live. We will cleanse the Hell Valley of its traitors. Your time will soon come, hi hi hi. The Shui clan felt a shiver run down their very core. This pair was way too abnormal. Not just the sons, but even the father and patriarch felt their hair stand on end. Xie Tianyang stepped up and shielded Xuaningxiang as he roared. Stop barking. I would like to see you try and touch the Shui clan. Second young master Xie. Our house lord's son will deal with you and we will deal with the traitorous Shui clan. Snickering, the girl threw her head back. The creepy way she talked and her posture only worked to deepen one's fear. The man next to her said, Don't forget our main objective, the Luo clan. Shui clan is just a side dish. You're after the Luo clan? Xuaningxiang was worried. On the other hand, Xie Tianyang felt relief. A few days back he would have been worried as well, but not now. Because the Luo clan had recovered their pillar, the demon archon Zhuo Fan. With him around, these weirdos looked like imps in comparison. Going after the Luo clan was a death sentence. But the man saw Xuaningxiang's distress and reveled in it. Yes, we will find the Luo clan and slaughter them all. Especially that Zhuo Fan. We will tear him limb from limb. Xuaningxiang's pure heart was stuck in her throat, vexed over Zhuo Fan's safety. Brother Zhuo, 2 bad men are after you. While Xie Tianyang almost burst out laughing. Dude, have you even seen Zhuo Fan? Have you seen his power? What is your boasting based on, hot air? Not even a moron will believe such a lame joke. But then he saw Xuaningxiang sick with worry and amended his thoughts with a twitch of his cheek. Ninger excluded. She was no moron, just naive. Chapter 261 Limelight. Chapter 261 Limelight. Look, Hell Valley's men are here. Someone from the crowd shouted and everyone turned their heads to see Yuanshan and his elder detail. He stood on the highest point with a somber look, flanked by Yu Ming and the rest of their other disciples participating in the final battle. As this place was the fighting grounds for third and second-rate clans, with how not even first-rate clans would come here to watch, least of all the 7 houses, there were no honorary seats for them. What stirred the biggest shock was the sudden appearance of Hell Valley, taking seat at the highest position. They could see the whole stage from there. But it was also a strategic position to emphasize the usual disdain the 7 houses had for these puny clans. But what was up with this sudden arrival? Who had caught their eye? Were they going to enjoy the show alongside them? Or was there a new star on the rise no one knew about? If it was the latter, who was this person and what was he capable of to garner such ostentatious audience? The crowd grew restless with their speculations. Sun Clan's creepy guy noticed Yuanshan's imposing figure and showed a morbid smile. See? Valley Lord, you came to personally watch us crush your clans. This is how much Hell Valley values us. Yeah, we're not like those Shui traders. Valley Lord finds us indispensable. Sun Clan's creepy girl showed a morbid smile herself. Shui clan only gave the duo a cursory glance, while being concerned about Hell Valley's real intentions. Hell Valley came to cheer for the Sun clan? How is that even possible, when they have never shown such care for any vassal before? Xie Tianyang mocked, cocky brats. Yuanshan isn't so bored as to watch a couple of aberrations. Say that again. What else would Valley Lord you be here for? There's only us around who is Hell Valley's vassal. The girl roared. Xie Tianyang shrugged. The 7 houses only ever cared about each other, and never about some squirming ants trying to get some praise. You're disillusioned if you think he came here to cheer for you. And then another sudden cry of shock came, followed by another unexpected arrival. And while Hell Valley's men were emitting deadly auras, the newcomers were graceful women with thin veils. Drifting flowers edifices. Grandmother was in the lead as Chu Qingqing was still nursing her wound. Behind her were her entire overseer contingent, and the Drifting Flowers Edifice's disciples participating in the final battle. Even Xiao Dandan was among them, darting her eyes around and looking for her special someone. Here comes another lovesick lass. That punk will be so annoyed. Xie Tonyang snickered. Dong Clan head puffed up his chest and took on a prideful air. Ha ha ha. I didn't expect Drifting Flowers Edifice's overseers to come support us. Our Dong Clan is so cherished. We may be Drifting Flowers Edifice's trusted aid, but to receive such care, ha ha ha. The guy was grinning from ear to ear and making the Shui clan envious. His position seemed to be so high that even the Edifice Lord came in person. Only Xie Tianyang sighed. It seems narcissism is an inherent trait of these vassals. Not just aberrations are susceptible to it but even normal people. What in the hell gave you the idea that the 7 houses came to see you specifically? Then came the third cry of the day. Shui clansmen watched overwhelmed with joy. Why? Because Sword Marquis abode Xie Xiaofeng was leading Xie Tianshang and his elders over. Patriarch Shui Dingtian was touched to the core as he showed off to the Dong clan head. Ha ha ha, clan head. Sword Marquis abode values us quite a lot as well. Wait. He didn't get to finish his haughty words as Xie Tianyang interrupted him. Everyone, I know fully well my words may sound crass, but could you cool off for a second and stop with the self-important attitude? Those house lords haven't even looked at you once, so how can you say they've come for you? The sudden wake-up call made them realize the wisdom in his words. If not for us, then who? This was a fighting stage for the 7 houses' vassals. Xie Tonyang shook his head. If there was anything the 7 houses paid attention to, besides each other of course, was strength. Who else but that punk could stir up so many of them to come here? While they were vexed by this conundrum, Pil King Hall appeared with a 4th cry. Yen Bagong led Yen Bongyi and Yen Fu with his elders over. They were soon followed by Mary Woods' house Lord Lin coming with his elders and a bouncing Lin Xianfeng. After a night of healing, Lin Xuanfeng's wound was closed. Even though he hopped about with a pale face, the audience was amazed. Is this forest fleeting dragon one of the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix? Why does he have only 1 leg? How would he fleet through the forest now? Few were aware of the circumstances regarding forest fleeting dragon's misery. How the vile soaring demonic dragon ripped his leg clean off. But the biggest shock of all was what came next. The head of the 7 houses, Regent Estate, Huang Putunyuan, was leading the group, with Regent Estate Steward, Long Wuchang, on his left, and his eldest, the head of 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, heaven-shaking dragon Lord Huang Pu Qingtian, on his right. Behind them was a team of profound heaven elders, 30 in number. The frightening display made everyone's hair stand on end. The other 6 houses also paused at their entrance. Regent Estate's power was unquestionably the highest among the houses. It had the ambition to swallow the others for good reason. It would have been a waste of their might if they didn't aim for at least this much. Under the riveting gazes of the crowd, Huang Pu Tianyuan made his way forward with a regal air and boundless power that stopped anyone from breathing within 300 meters. Only when Regent Estate took the foremost position did the man slowly withdraw his power, but the damage or deterrence was done. In his wake, the people were left shivering and gasping. That was enough to rouse up even the narcissistic trio of clans from their arrogance. The presence of all the 7 houses had nothing to do with them at all. Thinking about what loudmouths they were seconds ago, they started blushing like crazy. The Dong, Shui, and even the Sun clan's aberrations were stiff and awkward. This only helped to fuel their curiosity. Why were they all here? For whom? Xie Tianyang knew it all along, of course. The profound heaven expert on the stage stood on pins and needles under the stare of all those mighty figures. He shakily took out the roster. He was the king of this stage, but not anymore. 'Cause now he was a bottom feeder among all these big shots. He swallowed down while shaking and shouted, "The next fight will be between Zephyr City's Wan clan and Windgaze City's Luo clan." Every head turned to the dark entrance of the stage to see the greatest underdog in this esoteric debate, Luo clan. Even though the Luo clan's 28 strong men were quite something, the more they advanced the harder it became. Case in point, they left the last battle while supporting each other. Their opponent, the Wan clan, was a renowned second-rate clan. It even had 3 profound heaven youths. The crowd was eagerly awaiting for the Luo clan, but their prospects at winning were slim at best. Tap tap tap. A light noise was heard as Luo Yunhai was coming out on crutches, leaning on his sister towards the stage. The crowd's shock passed and was replaced by sighs. They all saw Luo Yunhai's valor and might, fearless as a tiger. And this tiger was an indispensable force in the Luo clan's team. Yet now he had an unexplained wound, which only crippled their chance of victory even more. Wan clan's 20 strong men were already on the stage and were now snickering. Victory's ours. But then a plain figure slowly made itself notice by walking behind the siblings. He caught the attention of all the houses. Regent Estate, Hell Valley, and their other 2 allies bore a deep hatred for Zhuo Fan. They suddenly released a deadly aura that made the audience shiver. It all makes sense now. The 7 houses came for him. Playing with his flickering thunder ring, Zhuo Fan walked without a care in the world. His deep gaze, his far-off look seemed to find everyone beneath him. This was how Zhuo Fan followed after Luo Yunchang, with a charming and faint smile. The biggest shock was received by those who didn't know Zhuo Fan. Who is he? Why are the 7 houses here for him? Dong Tianba and Dong Xiaowan went slack-jawed. They never ever thought they'd meet him here. Dong Xiaowan in particular, her gaze was filled with complicated emotions. Joy, sadness, and a hint of relief. Xue Wanlong and Xue Dingtian were shocked as well. They never thought that the young brat they met in All Beast Mountain Range would appear here. A soaring demonic dragon. The shout had caused another round of shock among the crowd as their eyes never strayed from Zhuo Fan. He is the Luo clan's strongest? The same soaring demonic dragon on par with 6 dragons and 1 phoenix? The Luo clan's main force has come out in the open. The crowd watched eagerly, thrilled to witness a good show. Chapter 262 Cheerleaders/Groupies. Chapter 262 Cheerleaders/Groupies. Old Pang, stay here and look after them. Zhuo Fan spoke behind him to Captain Pang and the young guards before walking on stage alone. The crowd wondered. Alone against Wan clan's 20 strongest. But then recalled that he had a title akin to the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix and got excited at the prospect. This was what everyone wanted to see. The extent of power one man possessed to make the 7 houses pay so much attention to. Brother Zhuo, fingers crossed. Xuaningxiang cheered with an adorable face. Staggering for a second there, Zhuo Fan waved back slightly with a smile. Dong Xiaowan waved as well, but found him not even noticing her and was peeved. Ninger, are you and Brother Zhuo close? He saved my clan's lives. Xuaningxiang nodded but then found Dong Xiaowan gloomy and mumbled, Sister Wan, sorry? It's fine. He never even looked at me anyway. Dong Xiaowan shook her head sullen. Dong clan had gleaned something out of all of this and asked Dong Tianba, is that youth who I think it is? Dong Tianba nodded and sighed. His sister had been love-struck since back in Drifting Flowers City. Her crush never spared her a glance, while she pined for him every moment. I can't tell if she is foolish or silly. Darling, good luck. Crush them all. A cute voice came from Drifting Flowers Edifice's side and slammed into the ears of the audience. Xiao Dandan was practically jumping in her seat, gesticulating wildly to make sure he saw her. Zhuo Fan held his head. What's this idiot doing here? Is Drifting Flowers Edifices so understaffed? How is she fit to join the 7 houses' final battle with her cultivation? Cannon fodder is more like it. Pulling Xiao Dandan back down, Peony Overseer cursed, why can't you act proper instead of some lovesick maiden? Humph, me and Darling have already tied the knot. He'll come around. Xiao Dandan pouted, still clinging to her hope. Sighing, Peony Overseer said, this girl has lost it. On the other hand, Xie Tianyang was laughing his head off, using this chance to gossip with Xuaningxiang. Ninger, see that? This punk is a womanizer. He got another one just like that. And I can attest to having seen them kissing in public myself. Xie Tianyang laughed and sighed. Time to cash in on the scheme I cooked back in Drifting Flowers Edifices. Xuaningxiang's eyes were fixed on Zhuo Fan, having a sinking and uncomfortable feeling in her heart. The looks Shuofan got from the audience were odd, to say the least. This kid's the bomb. He goes around the 7 houses, spreading chaos and destruction, while not forgetting to sow the seeds of love. Lady Killer Demonic Dragon is far more appropriate. Steward Zhua, you are a true man of mercy, to show such restraint in your travels. Luo Yunchang towered behind Shuofan with a sweet smile, and yet the killing intent in her eyes made her close to a demon. Shuofan shrugged it off. I only did what I had to. The rest was a force of circumstance out of my control. Force of circumstance, you say? Luo Yunchang teased and held his face. Shuofan was caught off guard. What are you doing? Force of circumstance. Grinning, Luo Yunchang looked at him longingly and smooched him. Shuofan felt her soft lips but didn't get to relish in the sensation as Luo Yunchang swished her head away blushing. But the look in her eyes was that of a blissful maiden. Steward Zhua, good luck. Luo Yunchang batted her eyes at him, then shot a glance towards Drifting Flowers edifices. Chu Qingqing's eyes were spitting fire right about now, her teeth crunching so hard even grandmother could hear. Xiao Dandan was having a hard time swallowing down her anger. She was ready to jump at that hussy's throat. Fortunately, Peony Overseer was there to rein her in. Who is she? How dare she force herself on darling? That's their clan's matter. It has nothing to do with you. Peony Overseer sighed. Xiao Dandan whined, that's my darling. Of course it has. Xie Tianyang found the ever-sweet and cheerful Xuaningxiang wearing a mask of anger and sorrow. This is a cat fight only a man can stir. But why do I get the feeling even my cute and lovely Ninger wants to join the battlefield as well? The audience was even more shocked. That's no demonic dragon, that's a love doctor, I tell you. While actually they felt jealousy and anger, being a skirt chaser is a skill as well. Huang Putonyuan twiddled his mustache with a cold eye. Sir Long, who among these girls is his Achilles heel? They all have a crush on him, but he ignores them completely. It's too soon to tell if any of them can be called his weakness. This needs further observation. Leng Wuchang's eyes flashed. Huang Pu Tianyuan nodded. Shuofan was out of it for a second there, then saw Luo Yunchang's rosy cheeks and rubbed her head. Young Miss Luo, you're not getting weird on me, are you? You're the weird one. Now get on stage. With a glare, Luo Yunchang pushed him forward. With that charming and touching look, she made quite a number of hearts skip a beat in the crowd. Shuofan shook his head and went on. Just then, 2 figures wrapped in black energy popped up in front of him. The Blue Expanse City's Sun Clan duo. Looking at the 2 creepy aberrations, Shuofan was stunned. You need something? Hi, Shuofan, you can't tell who we are? The man let out an eerie laughter, followed by the girl. Shuofan shook his head. Sorry. I've sinned so much I don't keep track of how many I've wronged. If you're here for revenge, kindly wait your turn. I'll be with you in a second to send you to the afterlife. Hi. Shuofan, you're as arrogant as ever. But we aren't the same as before. This time it's you who dies. The man's eyes flashed bloody red. Shuofan nodded. I get it now. I've never seen such ugly freaks in my life. Going through such a nasty makeover, of course I couldn't recognize the current you. The crowd erupted in laughter. Even the girls who were glaring at each other giggled, breaking off their cat fight. Only the duo on stage was pissed. Shuofan, that's enough. Another shout came and 2 more figures wrapped in black smoke appeared as they landed in front of Shuofan. They were old men in the 5th layer of Profound Heaven stage. But their faces were as creepy and disturbing as the duo's. Shuofan, you've mocked and derided us ever since we met. It's because of you we look like this. Today we will take your head as revenge. One of the old men said savagely. Luo Yunchang frowned. You came for revenge, but we do not even know how we've offended you. Humph, Yunchang, have you forgotten? Destruction of our clan being cast out, are these not reasons enough? The old man spat. Luo Yunchang was still puzzled, but Shuofan caught onto something and mocked. Oh, so it's you. Who knew you ended up so pathetic and turned into freaks? Now that you've lost all reason to live, you've come to me for reincarnation? We came to kill you or die together. The old man's mind was set. Snickering, Zhuo Fan said, even if you came to kill me, you ought to get in line. After I deal with the ones on stage, I don't mind finishing off the lot of you as well. The four nodded. As the saying went, know thyself and your enemy and you'd be ever victorious. It paid to know what the other party was capable of. So the four cleared a path for Zhuo Fan to go on stage. By now, the 20 strong fighters on stage were grave. They had lost the mockery and disdain they had for the bone-tempering Zhuo Fan. They just found out that he can stand tall like 6 dragons and 1 phoenix and changed their thinking. How were they going to beat such a monster? Heck, not even a first-rate clan could do him in. But since they were on stage already, the fight was unavoidable. They came to esoteric debate in hopes of coming under the wing of the 7 houses after all. This made every fight a chance to show their spirit and worth. A chance they would never miss. Soaring demonic dragon, come. One clan's leader cupped his hands, ready for battle. He was sweating buckets, but that didn't stop him from braving through the fear. Wait. Zhuo Fan smiled. My Luo clan will definitely enter the final battle, and this is too much of a hassle. So in order to move things along, let all clans from 3rd to 1st rate step in. If I lose, we walk. If I win, we'll go straight to the final battle, fighting with the 7 houses. SSS. A round of gasps echoed. He wants to fight every clan alone? That was just too outrageously cocky. His words only sparked anger in every clan present, while only the 7 houses looked on calmly. They were the only ones who knew all too well of Zhuo Fan's cunningness and deceit. Chapter 263 A Shocking and Devastating Strike. Chapter 263 A Shocking and Devastating Strike. The clans were outraged at Zhuo Fan's haughty declaration, while also terrified of the one they called Soaring Demonic Dragon. The profound heaven expert directing the fight said to Zhuo Fan, this isn't in the rules. What matters is strength. That's how one earns their right to participate in the final battle. Grinning, Zhuo Fan stuck out his chin as he turned to the 7 houses. And it's a perfect time to show them who they're up against. Such ego to consider himself the 7 houses equal. He instantly earned the disdain of the crowd, while those that knew of his exploits with the 7 houses thought, the kid sure is qualified. Huangpu Qingtian stepped forward and watched the stage coldly. The appearance of Regent Estate's eldest young master shocked them all. They soon heard a clear and mighty voice ringing in their ears. The words had such impact they almost had a heart attack. Do as per his wishes. But, Huangpu Qingtian drew his arm over the crowd. I declare that anyone who brings me Zhuo Fan's head, their clan will become Regent Estate's vassal. SSS. After a round of gasps, a deathly silence ensued. The clans were so overwhelmed they couldn't dare believe their ears. This is God sent. One little head was enough to skip the cruel and deadly esoteric debate's last battle, and just come under Regent Estate's wing. What they didn't know, however, was that this dream was closer to a nightmare than reality. But the promise of greatness robbed their minds of what was to come. Their eyes were fixed on Zhuo Fan, wishing they were already holding his head. All they were waiting for now was that profound heaven expert's signal, and they'd be onto him like wolves. No one even stopped to think that this free meal could be too hard to even chew. Was Zhuo Fan's title of Soaring Demonic Dragon, on par with 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, for naught? Young Master Huangpu, you're sending them to their deaths. Zhuo Fan was carefree as he showed an evil grin to Huangpu Qingtian. Huangpu Qingtian responded with the same smile. Isn't this what you wanted? Then they laughed. Zhuo Fan wanted to cause a sensation, all right, to establish Luo clan's position in the upcoming final battle. So the more people that jumped on his sword, the better. While Huangpu Qingtian never once believed these 2nd and 3rd-rate clans had any good seeds among them to even harm Zhuo Fan. He was using them to see Zhuo Fan's limit and develop contingencies. Each side understood the other's intent flawlessly, all while using each other. It was a win-win scenario. The only losses here would be just your run-of-the-mill rock for brains suicidal morons. The 7 houses noticed this as well, and they were stunned looking at the laughing duo. These two are devious and cruel men of ambition. They gaze far into the horizon. In this esoteric debate, the winner would come from one of them. But as the world wasn't big enough for the two of them, they had to settle their score here and now, or the world would be plunged into chaos at their hands, ripped apart and burned to cinders. The House Lords watched them with glinting eyes. The esoteric debate was going to revolve around these two monsters, Huangpu Qingtian and Zhuo Fan, each leading his own faction of houses, something unheard of in the past esoteric debates. The battle for unification was underway and nothing or anyone could stop it. All that was left was to see who had the last laugh. This was something privy to the 7 houses only. Those crickets downstairs only knew how to fight among each other for scraps. The presiding profound heaven expert got his nod of approval and flew up high, soon followed by his clear words. Luo clan's qualifying fight for the final battle begins. Roar! The clans flung themselves like mindless beasts at Zhuo Fan. They were all spectators turned opportunists. What used to be innocent bystanders were now fired up by the smell of blood and glory. They were all just one gory head away from becoming the foundation of their clan's endless fame. Who could fight the temptation? Perhaps they were lucky enough and would even get it. And the number who thought so was by no means small. As such, the referee's words were marked by a veritable flood of people storming the stage. It was close to 10,000 people, with plenty of bone tempering and profound heaven experts joining as well. The Wan clan already on stage was overwhelmed. Zhuo Fan was their opponent, but, as things stood, did they even have a snowball's chance in hell to rob the guy's head from the masses? Luck was with them in that regard, being so close and all. Yet when they looked deep into Zhuo Fan's bottomless gaze, the 20 strong men found themselves frozen. The incoming tide behind them was oblivious, rushing onwards like clueless children swept by the promise of reward as they launched attacks on Zhuo Fan. The thousands of people swallowed Zhuo Fan until he was no longer visible. Xuaningxiang was worried. Will Brother Zhuo be fine? Totally. With that punk's luck, not even the 7 houses can do anything to him, let alone these pests. Xie Tianyang comforted Ninger, but he was nonetheless frowning. But isn't thousands of people at once perhaps an overkill? The punk is amazing, sure, but there is also the danger of dying from exhaustion. Why is he waiting them out? Why isn't he thinning the crowd? Hi, no matter how strong, he is all alone against the tide. He is finished. A creepy laughter jarred his ear. The audience, or what was left of it, turned to the creepy man to hear him say, "A shame we are already under Hell Valley and cannot throw our lot with Regent Estate. We would have been in there cashing our luck otherwise." And true. Dong Clan Head nodded. Wanner glared at him. Dong Clan Head shook his head as he looked at the sea of people on the stage. These are cruel words, but that is reality. Regent Estate's bait is too enticing for anyone to resist. Not even the kid would have thought his egotistical words would stir such a reaction. Even if he dies, he only has himself to blame. Dong Clan Head sighed, as did Xue Wanlong and Xue Dingtian. Xuaningxiang and Dong Xiaowan watched on, plagued with worry. Dong Tianba and the Xue clan's youths were frowning, but only Xie Tianyang had a mocking smile. Egotistical? Of course he is. But have you ever seen how cautious he is? How could a brash and obnoxious kid ever manage to toy with you, geeky? Xie Tianyang was not one bit worried for Zhuo Fan's fate. He knew Zhuo Fan showed cockiness on the outside but never actually did something unless he had a plan set in motion. Who? An invisible ripple spawned in the center of the stage, swallowing it whole. The force of it had Huangpu Tianyuan squinting. He watched as the tide of people on the stage had blank stares before collapsing. All the contestants dropped on the ground one at a time, with the crazed and thirsty greed frozen on their faces. Those outside the stage stopped in their charge, watching the stage tensely. Zhuo Fan touched the buffed guy in front with his finger and let him collapse. The ground around him was littered with bodies, not that he cared, stepping over them in his conquering march. Like a king, he was stepping on the bodies of his enemies as he took his throne. Xuaningxiang and Dong Xiaowan were overjoyed while Dong Clan Head, Xue Clan Head were shell-shocked. What just happened? What's wrong with them? The shock on everyone's faces was palpable. Zhuofan was uncaring, looking over the leftovers, still standing and cocking his finger with a nasty grin. There's still 1,000 left. Come and take my head if you want it. Swallowing dryly, they were now faltering. Their previous high had passed, as did their courage. The sight of an evil and grinning Zhuofan in the middle of thousands of bodies tended to do that to a feeble mind. Killing with intent. Huangpu Qingtian's eyes trembled. His quiet voice spread everywhere among the deathly silence. In an instant, everyone looked at Zhuofan in shock. Isn't that a radiant stage expert's ability? Why is a bone-tempering cultivator wielding it? The fear in their eyes couldn't be more pronounced. This was why so many people dropped lifeless without even a chance to fight back. The one that killed them was on par with a radiant stage expert. Chapter 264 Tyrant. Chapter 264 Tyrant. All the big shots from the 7 houses were overwhelmed at Zhuofan's power, having exceeded their expectations by a long shot. What was considered a freak body cultivator, harder than diamonds, had in a single step crossed over the profound heaven stage and went straight to using Radiant Stage's abilities, leaving these old fogies eating dust. Bluntly put, these 7 houses' big shots were so daft that not even one had touched upon the Radiant Stage. And that shame came crashing down, evident by their flushed faces. What is wrong with this generation? One freakier than the last. If these bags of bones were of Zhuofan's age, they'd be dancing in joy if they had the hope of even entering the profound heaven stage. But now it only brings us tears. Out with the old and in with the new, they always say. But the new has kicked us to the curb with this display. Sigh. As the old bones watched the imposing and daunting Zhuofan on stage, their eyes glistened with tears, feeling as if they had aged a few centuries on the spot. Huangpu Qingtian was having a hard time containing himself, evident by the gnashing teeth and clenched fists. He showed off killing with intent last night, to flounce his almightiness and scare the living daylights out of Zhuofan. But come tomorrow, Zhuofan replied with the same coin, making his act anything but of a circus clown. Such a display of power would leave anyone wallowing in their refuse from fright. As to what Zhuofan did after this display, not only bitch-slapped him but threw him from the highest peak into the deepest abyss. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that his act yesterday was of foolishness. Zhuofan picked on his shame and did what he liked doing best, egging Huangpu Qingtian on with an exaggerated middle finger and a quirk of his eyebrows. Words were hardly necessarily at this stage in getting his point across. Dumbass. Huangpu Qingtian's eyes were spitting flames at this point, having long crossed the limits of his tolerance. But Lung Wuchang held his shoulder, stopping him from acting out. By getting rid of these third- and second-rate clans, Zhuofan spoke aplenty. By killing with intent, taken as his weapon of choice, he spat on Huangpu Qingtian's bravado while also slapping him around for good measure. Could any living being take it? And yet he did. He knew this was neither time nor place for such an altercation. O.L. Poisoner, have you ever seen the eldest young master lose his cool? Yu Yushan walked over to Yen Bongyi. Shaking his head, Yen Bongyi's face was grave. Not even once. Same. But the punk sure knows how to push the eldest young master's buttons. He chuckled for a second before sighing. By the looks of it, the final battle revolving around 6 dragons and 1 phoenix for so many centuries has now turned into heaven-shaking dragon lord versus soaring demonic dragon. All we can do is stay back and cheer like mere squires. We were so useless yesterday as well. Yen Bongyi recalled how Zhuofan had popped up in his face and shuddered from how powerless he felt. He didn't want to admit it, not with how he scrunched his teeth. Since when their prestige as 6 dragons and 1 phoenix was seen with mockery? Yen Bagong, leader of Pilking Hall, glanced at the two with calm. Don't sell yourself short. You are very much needed in the plan to get ourselves rid of that little monster. Shuddering, the two recovered their fighting spirit. Yeah, we just need a good plan and together we will waste him for good. Yen Fu grinned with hatred. While the two were quiet, Yu Yushan mocked him. Ha ha ha, what can you possibly do? Since when are you on the same level as us? Yin Bongyi couldn't help but smile and Yin Bagong chuckled. Yin Fu was furious, but there was nothing he could do. Ever since his master Yin Song suffered an untimely demise, he lost all support in Peking Hall. His alchemy was very much well regarded still, but his poison arts paled to the likes of Yin Bongyi, so he was kicked to the curb. It only worked to fuel his hatred for Zhuo Fan to new heights. He lost everything because of him. Back on the stage, all those greedy and power-hungry clans finally woke up from the allure of fame. They started drawing back further and further away. The referee landed on the corpse-filled stage and sighed at Zhuo Fan's insane power. In the millennium that passed, and in all the esoteric debates that were held, never had the preliminaries to the final battle yielded so many casualties. Although sad, he had no sympathy whatsoever. Their greed got them their deaths. They bet their lives for power and fame, but lost in the end. They got their just desserts. In this qualification round for the final battle, Luo clan is victorious. The old guy shouted. They all heard it, but they didn't applaud. Those that laid at Zhuo Fan's feet were their brothers, part of the same clans. Why would anyone congratulate their enemy for killing their men? Did that even make sense? The only thing they felt when looking at the slaughter was pain. Zhuo Fan had stepped on their kin to enter the final battle. Why the hell would they applaud? Their hearts were only capable of unbridled hatred now. Not that Zhuo Fan cared. Every general climbed to his rank by stepping over a mountain of corpses. He had no need for eulogies and acclamations, only to be feared and obeyed. Old Pang, make a list with all the dead people's clans. I will pay a visit to each and every one of them. Zhuo Fan pointed at the corpse-filled stage. Old Pang got to work immediately. The relatives watched disgruntled, and some even had the courage to voice their indignation. Zhuo Fan, we don't need your hypocrisy. Don't think that some poor apology will be enough to atone for this slaughter. This earned the nods of the crowd. Apology atone? Quirking an eyebrow, Zhuo Fan felt he had heard the biggest joke ever. Ha ha ha, are you stupid or what? Since when did I start having regrets from killing? And you even went as far as thinking I'd apologize for squashing mere ants. Humph, let me be perfectly clear. When you went after me just now wishing to get my head, I made sure to burn each one of you in my mind. I only want the list so I can pay a social visit and send you off with the rest of your clan and avoid any meddlesome folks in the future. Apologize? Atone? Unlike all those stories where the guy gets the girl, I will be sure to take her from right under your noses, morons. SSS. Gasps of fear resounded everywhere. Is this guy human? He slaughtered so many and yet he won't rest until he has committed genocide? Gone was vengeance from everyone's minds, and instead they shivered in fear, worrying if they'd even have a future. Maybe moving into mountains and avoiding this demon archon is for the best. They all paled and forgot everything about revenge. Leng Wuchang snickered a praise. This brat sure is crafty. People seek revenge out of survival. But when that is at risk, all the hatred evaporates. They will most likely run home and cover all of this up, while leaving him a free path to the final battle. But this punk is a tyrant. He does not care for the people. Huangpu Tianyuan said. Leng Wuchang shook his head. A tyrant is called that only in the moment of his fall. That is when others gather their nerves to call him that. If he keeps on winning, he will always be a righteous lord. His actions will have no impact whatsoever as well. As you can see from his choice today, he instilled a powerful image on all present here that getting on Luo clan's bad sides or on the Seven Houses' bad side made no difference. They'll end up dead either way. So who then will go against the Luo clan besides us? Gasping, Huangpu Tianyuan nodded. He is both ambitious and a ruler material. We need to nip him in the bud. Huangpu Tianyuan stood up and left. Seeing Regent Estate following their estate lord, the other 6 houses glanced one more time at Zhuo Fan before leaving as well. Staying any longer wouldn't net them any new information anyway. They had been introduced already to Zhuo Fan's other grand ability. Oh. Zhuo Fan sighed watching them go and went to Xuaningxiang and Xie Tianyang. What a coincidence. You are also joining the esoteric debate? He failed to notice, however, Lung Wuchang pausing and looking back at him with a wide grin. Estate Lord, I may have found this brat's weakness. Lung Wuchang beamed at Huang Putunyuan. Huang Putunyuan raised an eyebrow. Sir Lung found out the cause behind his vanishing acts. No, but it is akin to a spatial array. We can only use another array to seal this ability. Lung Wuchang shook his head. Oh. If only Zhuo Fan was here to hear this, he'd have the shock of his life, and praise Lung Wuchang's cunning eyes. The divine eye of the void's first stage's weakness was indeed a sealed space. But how do we trap him in an array? He is just too insidious to fall for it. Huangpu Tianyuan frowned. Lung Wuchang showed a vague smile. He is trickier than a fox, proving to be a hard opponent even for me. But even smart people act like an average person sometimes. Ho, Sir Lung must have a plan ready then. Huangpu Tianyuan's eyes flashed. Lung Wuchang nodded and smiled. Chapter 265 A Clan Dog's Burial. Chapter 265 A Clan Dog's Burial. Big Brother Zhuo. Congratulations on getting into the final battle. Xuaningxiang couldn't stop the sweet smile from gracing her face. Xue Dingtian and Dong clan heads' hearts jumped from fear, despite knowing fully well that Zhuo Fan had always been on their side. It was all because his power was the biggest threat. The sight of Zhuo Fan slaughtering thousands of people with intent alone gave them the feeling of ants looking at a giant. He could kill them on a whim if he found them displeasing in any way. Who wouldn't shake in their boots? They had a stiff smile on their faces, but their backs were soaked. They were like deer in the headlights. The tiger had them in his sights, and even if his appetite was abated, their fear was very much real. Zhuo Fan was oblivious to the fear he evoked. He who had become a dreaded existence just minutes ago was now smiling and nodding. The others nodded stiffly with an awkward smile. He puffed up his chest as he looked at Xuaningxiang. That was going to happen in due time anyways. It will hardly make a difference when garbage throws itself at me, even if they are in the tens of thousands. They all laughed dryly, but sweat poured out harder. His tone was haughty, but then the people thought about it from a different angle. Weren't Dong clan and Xue clan average clans as well, garbage even? What would be their future? Wasn't he clearly mocking them in a convoluted way? It wasn't like the two could complain. Who told him to get strong enough to end their lives with a squeeze? Just smile and nod. Zhuo Fan was minding his own business, and with how often he was around big shots, he had no idea what waves his words were stirring in these two clan heads' minds. Xuaningxiang chuckled innocently, but then she frowned. Big Brother Zhuo, will you really end their clans? They just lost their relatives. On the stage, death is unavoidable, but going so far as to kill their whole clan afterwards is cruel. My clan was also on the verge of being wiped out and I can relate. Please see, could you just let them go? Well. Zhuo Fan frowned. Xuedington noticed the predicament and chastised. Ninger Steward Zhuo had his reason for doing it. You can't go and ruin his plans with your playfulness. Moreover, a true man never goes back on his word. Even more so for Steward Zhuo, who is a hero, a great. Fine, no problem. Xuedingtian didn't even get to teach his dear granddaughter about manners before Zhuo Fan just shrugged it off. I only meant to scare them anyway, to dispel any thoughts of going against me. Since I got what I wanted, there's no need to exterminate them. What do you take me for, a pitiless demon archon? Damn right. They all shook their heads but nodded in their minds. If you're no demon archon, what are the thousands of corpses doing on stage? Xuaningxiang was ecstatic. She felt for those pitiful clans deeply. Big Brother Zhuo doesn't need to go through a pointless slaughter. Zhuo Fan smiled and ruffled her hair. His savage face showed a rare hint of being content. Xuedingtian was dumbstruck. He was looking to justify Zhuo Fan's cruel way all this time and even reproached his granddaughter. And yet Zhuo Fan actually agreed with his granddaughter's pleading instead of giving credence to his reasoning. Where would his face go when speaking to his juniors now? But seeing that Zhuo Fan had eyes for Ninger alone, the old man sighed. My face is useless here. Better leave them alone, lest I become a third wheel. Hey, hands off. Don't you know mere acquaintances should never touch? Xie Tianyong burst into their corner of the world and flung Zhuofan's hand off Ninger's head. His jealousy was already burning strong, and seeing Zhuofan patting her was the last straw. Zhuofan saw right through him and sighed. Oh. Luo Yunchang took this moment to barge in as well. Yeah, how could any respectable woman be touched so casually? Then she said in apology, Ninger, please don't mind it. Steward Zhua is a bore. I'll teach him some manners when we get back. It's all right. Young Miss Luo, don't blame Big Brother Zhua. Xuaningxiang panicked. The gullible girl thought the young miss had the power to knock some sense into Zhuofan. Zhuofan frowned, feeling ticked off for some odd reason. Steward Zhua, here's the list. Captain Pang came with a paper. Zhuofan scrunched it up and threw it. Never mind. Captain Pang was stumped. What's with Steward Zhua? Why is he so angry? Zhuofan had no clue why, but felt something amiss when Xie Tianyong flung his hand off the girl's head. It only got worse when Luo Yunchang showed up and her words stung him. He was now sulking and had no one to vent on. Suddenly Zhuofan shouted, wait! They all looked around to see where Zhuofan was looking. The Sun Clan's four were tiptoeing away. They were depressed. They worked so hard on their cultivation the last 5 years too. They thought with their strength, it was enough to at least take Zhuofan to his grave together if not alone. But then they saw that monstrous Zhuofan turn into an abomination, killing with intent. The four of them had no chance whatsoever now. They would be finished in a blink. Oh, they still wanted revenge of course, but that didn't mean becoming cannon fodder was in their plan. Only an idiot would jump right in when there was no chance of victory. So they chose to hightail out of there. Once Zhuofan figured out who they were, he no longer cared about them. But now he needed a good punching bag to blow off some steam, and they became the perfect targets. Zhuofan hardly ever got angry, especially the kind of dubious and inexplicable type of anger he was feeling right now. But now that he ran into these guys, he felt like the luckiest man alive. Staggering, the old man in front stiffly looked back as he used the same hoarse voice. You need something? Are you serious? You're asking me? After you had the gall to shout that you'll kill me? Zhuofan smiled in anger, walking towards them while spouting, Kai Rong, Kai shouting, and the Sun Clan's father and daughter, drop the dumb act. The four shuddered as they turned, yet they were too scared to even look him in the eye. Luo Yunchang's group jerked. They threw the four out of their clan, but who knew they'd end up looking like freaks of nature? Zhuofan cared not about their flimsy explanations and appeared right in front of the four as he taunted. Come then. Weren't you gonna take revenge? I'll take you all on and even give you 2 free moves. Their faces sank, no longer arrogant as before, but down in the dumps. What good will 2 moves do when you can kill us with intent alone? Don't feel like it. That only got Zhuofan's rage to tower higher and roared. Since you have no guts, kneel. See how I put you in your place. Regardless of how unwilling they were, their knees buckled. To kneel or not to kneel? That was the question. Kneeling was shameful, but most likely a better outcome than ending up a smear on the ground at this savage's hands. Life is ever precious. Face matters not, especially with our creepy looks. One after the other, they bent their knees and fell on Zhuofan's feet. Luo Yunchang cried, how did you all end up like this? How else? The Hell Valley gave them some double-edged demonic method. A demonic emperor like Zhuofan saw through them in a flash as he cursed, just look at yourselves. You're neither human nor monster, and yet you still want to live? Is this the awe-inspiring power you all sought? Especially you, instead of staying as an elder in the Luo clan, you went ahead and threw your whole lot with the Sun clan. What a fool. Zhuofan sputtered into Kai Rong's flushed face. Zhuofan had hardly had enough and kept on flinging curses. Do you know why you look like this? It's what you deserve for being so adamant in becoming someone's lapdogs. Even as an elder of the Luo clan, you wanted to climb aboard Hell Valley. Now that you did, you're worth less than even a dog. Idiot. Nitwit. Dumbass. Nimrod. Zhuofan was on a roll. He was thorough in cursing out every bit of respect the four ever had. They couldn't even muster a retort. Oh. Luo Yunchang glanced at Zhuofan with complicated thoughts. Zhuofan, kill us or torture us. But stop with the insults. Kai Rong had had enough, it seemed. Zhuofan squinted. Kill you? Why would I ever do that? The four were startled and echoed, you won't kill us. Of course not. I only care about two kinds of people. Friends to hang out with and enemies to kill. Grinning, Zhuofan added, what do you suppose you are? Enemy? Kai Rong tested. Shaking his head, Zhuofan snickered. Friends perhaps. Kai Rong's heart thumped with hope. Was Zhuofan absolving them? Was he going to help them? Zhuofan was cracking up. And mocked them even harder. Wrong, you are nothing to me. Just a bunch of clowns unworthy to kill and even less to call friends. Beat it. Live on like the dogs you are, and have a taste of worldly pain as you reflect on your mistakes. I expect a good show on your part. With a grin, Zhuofan finally felt at peace, having cursed them and humiliated them so thoroughly. Chapter 266 Rage. Chapter 266 Rage. Shameless humiliation. The faces of the four were aflame, wishing they could go out fighting, and yet they kneeled there without a peep. Why were they here anyway? Did they come here only to get humiliated? Luo Yunchang sighed and glanced at Zhuofan. Zhuofan looked crazed in his enjoyment, shouting, why are you still here? Get lost already. Kai Rong's group shook their heads and left, but not before they heard Zhuofan sinking one last insult. Do it like dogs. What are you standing around for when you're not even humans? Shuddering, the four bit their lips fiercely. Zhuofan was towering over them with his mighty air and arrogance, yet all they could do was suffer. He was just that strong. Kai Rong wept as he crawled away with the other three. Their image in the evening sun struck the picture of degradation, of stray dogs begging for mercy. Zhuofan barked on, trying to dispel that queer rage completely. People watched Zhuofan being thorough and humiliating these four, leaving them without a shred of dignity. The more they saw, the greater their fear of Zhuofan became. They said a warrior could be killed but not shamed. And yet when these clan heads watched such naked display of abuse and mockery, they felt it was even worse than having their entire clan wiped out. Because visiting the underworld may be cruel and sad, but all clansmen would meet again in the afterlife, while the shamed would have to live on with this disgrace, in this nightmare built by harsh and cruel words, a fate worse than death. While Zhuofan was raining curses, his every word stung Shui and Dong clan like daggers. Are we dogs or warriors? The Luo clan had Zhuofan as their pillar that even the 7 houses regarded with importance, and thus they could maintain their integrity. While to the average clan in this world, not being dogs would end up becoming their destruction. How could one have integrity when his entire existence was threatened? Oftentimes they never wished to rise above their station, simply to survive. That was why they had integrity on the surface, while acting like dogs through their actions. Just that these two clans were lucky enough to get a good master, Drifting Flowers edifices and Sword Marquis abode, unlike how the cruel Hell Valley treated their vassals. So they may be dogs but could venture in calling themselves dogs with pedigree. Taking deep breaths, Shui clan head and Dong clan head glanced at each other, then shook their heads. Zhuofan and Luo clan were worlds apart from them. Steward Zhua, calm down. Why are you so angry? It's not worth stressing yourself over this. Captain Peng came to Zhuofan with a smile. Zhuofan shrugged, his face calm. I'm fine. I am not one to get angry over the likes of them. They are not worth it. I only abused them since it worked to show off my pretentious style. Captain Peng reeled and laughed dryly. What a reason to curse someone. How freakish. Only Luo Yunchang bit her lip watching Zhuofan. Oh, sorry everyone. There are matters that I need to deal with. I shall take my leave. Zhuofan cupped his hands and left with Luo Yunchang and company. The others replied in kind. Only Dong Xiaowan watched him grumbling. He never even looked at me. Dong clan head patted her shoulder and shook his head. Wanner, you and him are of different worlds. It's impossible. Dong Xiaowan closed her teary eyes. In Luo clan's residence, the ever-quiet Luo Yunchang spoke up. Zhuofan, Miss Ninger and you. What's wrong? Zhuofan asked, puzzled. Luo Yunchang looked at him long, then shook her head. Nothing. Zhuofan blinked obliviously. Luo clan stayed in a small courtyard in Dragon Cloud City. After coming here, Zhuofan called for Lei Yuntian and the 20 profound heaven fakes. With Steward Zhua as our bulwark, we will always achieve absolute victory. Lei Yuntian cupped his hands and laughed. Zhuofan merely barked at the fakers. Elder Lei, cane these things 100 times each personally. Lei Yuntian was startled. Why is Steward Zhua angry? Did he lose? No way. Whenever Zhuofan entered the fray, he only came out winning. Not to mention this was an easy matter. The 20 fakers were stumped as well. What did we do? They've been well behaved as of late. We never showed off either. Zhuofan snorted. You think I forgot about you since I didn't pay you any attention last couple of days? Luo clan was attacked yesterday, and even our allies and outsiders came out with heavy wounds trying to protect our masters. While you just picked a corner to let this play out. You think you'll get out of this so easily? But they were 6 dragons and 1 phoenix. We have no hope of defeating them. Would have only died for nothing. One of the 20 said with fear. Squinting, Zhuofan's flick sent him flying as he roared. You call that a reason? When you were Imperial Guards, did you run away as well? You are now the Luo clan's guards, and the least you could do is be our shields. We are never to die before all of you. Didn't Elder Lei and Captain Peng act just the same? You don't have the Luo clan's well-being as your priority and must be punished. Lei Yuntian nodded after a pause. He was right, and these guys had to be put in their place. Elder Lei, what are you standing around for? Do it. Zhuofan barked. The 20 fakers jolted in fear. Lei Yuntian was about to execute the order when he froze. Wait, 100 canes per faker? Won't my old body give out after 2,000 hits? Steward Zhua, are you punishing them or taking it out on me? But then again, only he was the best person suited for the job, since if anyone else did it, it wouldn't count as punishment. But 2,000 canes. Lei Yuntian looked at Luo Yunchang bitter. Yunchang, what happened today? Why is Steward Zhua so irritated? Luo Yunchang shook her head. Never mind, Uncle Lei. Just give them 20 canes each, but a bit harder. They all eased a breath in relief. The fakers rejoiced, as did Lei Yuntian. They were blessed to have this young miss above Demon Archon Zhua. 2,000 canes turning into 400 was far more manageable. Back in his room, Zhuofan sat down and emptied the teacup at the side in one gulp and sighed. He was finally calm. Luo Yunchang and Captain Peng entered, to which Zhuofan said, How is Elder Li and the others? They should be close. For Dragon Cloud City to keep the peace, no house was allowed to bring in Radiant Stage experts. So Zhuofan guessed Li Jingtian's group had to be waiting on the outskirts of town. Captain Peng shook his head. Young Miss Lei and Elder Yan hadn't come since you had plans for them. Correct. I indeed told them to move around this time. And the others? Zhuofan nodded. Captain Peng muttered. The others didn't as well. Why? Zhuofan finally had the time to mind Luo clan's situation, and was stunned by what he heard. It was my idea. Luo Yunchang said. Dragon Cloud City doesn't allow Radiant Stage experts in, and you said not to expose our cards too soon. So I. Fool. Zhuofan snapped and raged again. The 7 houses didn't bring Radiant Stage experts because of their power, while you have none. If you and Yunhai die here, the Luo clan is finished. What would be the point of all my plans and my efforts to help the clan? To throw it all away in the end? Luo Yunchang bit her lip and tears threatened to fall down her cheeks. But instead of succumbing to them, she snapped back, Yes. I am not so astute and failed to see the big picture. And you? After being gone for 5 years, you instantly scream at anyone you find an eyesore. It'd have been better if you hadn't bothered coming. Luo Yunchang slammed the door as she left. Captain Peng was awkward. Steward Zhua, please don't take it to heart. She didn't mean it. She missed you day and night. Fine, I know. This isn't the first time she has acted like this anyway. Zhuofan sighed and squinted. Old Peng. Send a messaging jade slip for Elderly to provide us support. I have a feeling we will have a falling out with Regent Estate. Captain Peng nodded. Zhuofan was soon left alone with his thoughts. He closed his eyes as he considered. He knew something was off about him today. Irritated by everything and lashing out at anyone. He was this close to trading blows too. This couldn't go on. If anger got the best of him, he would force his way forward, which was not a good thing. He had to control himself at all costs, or there was a high chance he would do something he would regret. But why was he so ticked off all of a sudden? Taking a deep breath and closing his eyes, he calmed down and started cultivating. Suddenly, a shout echoed and Zhuofan clutched his right eye as he fell to the ground soaked. The golden ring in his eye flashed on and off as a faint second golden ring appeared. Am I about to achieve Divine Eye of the Void's second stage? Zhuofan was excited. Chapter 267 Cold-Blooded. Chapter 267 Cold-Blooded. Rustle. With a few flicks of his arms, Zhuofan set up a defensive array and sat cross-legged, calmed his mind and readied himself to advance. He felt his right eye burning red-hot as the golden ring flashed. Zhuofan took a deep breath and focused his entire soul power on his right eye. The divine eye of the void had an intrinsic connection with one's soul. Each advancement would tax one's soul greatly. 3 days passed within a blink in this manner, with Zhuofan focused on his task and no one disturbing him either. However, the morning of the 4th day Zhuofan opened his eyes with a sigh. It still failed. Is it because my soul is weak or because of my restless state of mind? Squinting, Zhuofan began regretting. It was such a rare chance to get stronger and he had thoroughly wasted it. Recalling his impatience 4 days ago, Zhuofan shook his head. Why couldn't I be calm? I need to temper my heart and remove all distractions. Zhuofan took a deep breath and closed his eyes. The next time he opened them, they were crystal clear with no ripples across them. Zhuofan stood up, undid the array and walked out. He was met with Luo Yunchang and company. One look was enough to tell him something was up. What's wrong? Zhuofan eyed them. Luo Yunchang muttered. Pavilion Lord Long has sent word that they want to discuss the final battle among the 7 houses with you. But you were cultivating these past days and… All right, I got it. Zhuofan interrupted her and walked away without even looking at them. Like a lone wolf. Luo Yunchang looked at his back for a long while and then said, Captain Pang, did you also notice that he has changed? Captain Pang swallowed. Steward didn't change. He has only returned to how he was 8 years ago. He looks the same as back then in Misty Forest. Luo Yunchang watched the prideful figure with an aching heart. Is he leaving again? A demonic cultivator only ever cared about themselves. With Zhuofan having met so many people over the years, each encounter had a faint influence, each tainting his heart and ultimately rattling his usually peaceful state of mind. He was of the belief that this was the sole reason for his failure to advance Divine Eye of the Void to the 2nd stage. After careful consideration, he had cast out every influence, along with the ever-growing emotions. The strong had no need for dead weights. Surveying the white clouds floating about the blue sky, Zhuofan's eyes were crystal clear. So much so that they looked dead. So much better. Sighing, Zhuofan walked with purpose to a courtyard 10 times larger than the Luo clans. This place had high-ranking people watching the gate. Brother, the killing with intent you used has opened my eyes. Longzhou laughed. Zhuofan nodded unaffected. Long time no see, Brother Jiao. Longzhou paused for a second. Why is brother so cold today? Darling, you were so cool. Xiao Dandan skipped over at some point with a rosy face. Peony Overseer held her face and sighed. Zhuofan glanced at her and said, Lass, do that again and I'll make sure it will be your last. Reeling, Xiao Dandan watched him like he was some stranger. She had gotten used to Zhuofan talking like that, but this time she could see the bloodthirst glinting in his eyes. She was certain that if she opened her mouth at this instant, Zhuofan would rip it off. Peony Overseer saw her disciple being picked on and glared. But before she could spring in defense, Zhuofan's cold, emotionless eyes snapped at her. And you deal with your disciple before she meets with misfortune. When that time comes, you'll only have yourself to blame for not educating her properly. Fan then walked inside without sparing the women a look. Fan had long lost his joking mood and was ready to follow up on his threats. What's wrong with this kid? He's like another person. While those familiar with Fan were stifled, the rest were even more afraid of earning his ire. Fan was surrounded by a constant air of savagery, as if he was standing above all. No one dared to stand closer than 3 meters around this mighty lord. His faraway look and his power let them know that the best he ever felt was when he was alone. This Fan left them all cold and shaken inside. Rumble. Fan walked in through the heavy door, where the 3 clans sat around a round table. They all smiled at his coming, Chu Qingcheng especially. He nodded and smiled in reply, but ignored Chu Qingcheng as he took a chair. Steward Zhua, the qualification round has concluded. Because of your involvement, a large number of clans were eliminated. This makes the final battle planned a month later be moved 2 days from now. Long Yifi explained. Fan nodded. So the reason you wanted to see me is? Seeing how the Luo clan has never participated in the final battle of the 7 houses before, there are some things you have yet to learn. Long Yifi smiled. Actually, the final battle is held in a different area each time and rules change accordingly. What remains the same is how cruel and brutal it is. So it isn't held in Dragon Cloud City? Hasn't it been a tradition for esoteric debate to be held here for the past 1,000 years? Fan raised an eyebrow. Long Yifi shook his head. This is the imperial family's scheme. Only by constantly changing the environment could they see the true power of the 7 houses. And with how powerful the disciples from the 7 houses are, so too will the terrain become of a much greater difficulty. This time it is expected to be the worst so far. Fan squinted, still out of the loop. Grandmother giggled. Steward Zhua needn't be baffled. The Dragon Cloud City has a large 8th grade teleportation array to send us anywhere within the Tianyu Empire. And that is where the final battle will be held. This is also to prevent anyone from setting an ambush. Fan nodded. Imperial family thought of everything. But using such a large teleportation array only for esoteric debate is such a waste. Fan shook his head in the end. If the imperial family wanted to waste their coffers, how was that his problem? He was better off focusing on the final battle. That was the whole reason why they were gathered here. Xie Xiaofeng smiled. Steward Zhua, your skills have opened our eyes. But we still wish to ask, how confident are you in facing Huangpu Qingtian? Squinting, Fan snickered. None whatsoever. But you can rest easy knowing that I can hold him down. With how one of the other 3 is a cripple, can you handle the remaining 2? With Steward Zhua holding off that monster, the other 2.5 men will be easily taken care of. The 7 houses ranking will be in upheaval. Xie Xiaofeng anticipated with joy. The others laughed with him. They discussed further details then adjourned. Fan walked to the door when a graceful figure blocked his view. Fan eyed Chu Qingcheng. You need something? Fan said flatly. Chu Qingcheng watched the impassive Fan in anger. Fan, I want an answer. Did you have no reason to stay in Drifting Flower City longer? None. Fan was resolute. I told you, I only did it out of self-interest. Since I had achieved my goal and got what I came for, I had no reason to stay. Chu Qingcheng gnashed her teeth and clenched her fists. What about the days spent in that shack? You call playing house being real? Mocking, Fan sneered. Without sacrificing a few days of my youth, you would have never given up Bodhi Jade sap so willingly. Pa! Chu Qingcheng slapped him before he could finish. Grinning, Fan giggled despite her raging eyes. Silly girl, you're so easily duped that I worry how Drifting Flowers edifices will survive after grandmother's gone. Why not give it to me? Bastard, you are dead inside. Chu Qingcheng glared. Her fingers dug into her palm drawing blood, trailing her flawless skin. Smirking, Fan no longer looked at her as he left, but his mockery stung nonetheless. Ha ha ha, I am and always will be a demonic cultivator. Even if that time made me feel anything, so what? You think you can hook me in? With heart-wrenching pain, Chu Qingcheng watched him leave with a face filled with tears. Zhuofan paused but never turned around. His face forever cold as he walked away alone. Peony Overseer and the rest rushed over, seeing Chu Qingqing's state and starting cursing Zhuofan. Zhuofan hardly cared about the pesky cawing, leaving with a cold smile on his face. He had just left the courtyard and soon noticed some blood seeping from his mouth. He wiped it off unfeeling and mechanically. To become a demonic emperor, he had to be cold-blooded, and to never allow a trace of emotion to get a hold of him ever again. Chapter 268 Prologue of the Final Battle. Chapter 268 Prologue of the Final Battle. Dragon Cloud City's westernmost side had a towering mountain going by the name of Transfer Peak. Right on top of this huge hunk of rock laid a grand 8th-grade teleportation array. Some said that even before Tianyu Empire came to be, the Yuan imperial family used this precise array to send its troops to every corner of the empire. But as the chaos made way to peace, it didn't see much use, serving now just as a means to blow off the 7 houses' ever-accumulating rancor through the esoteric debate. At this particular moment, hundreds of clans were gathering on it en masse. They all looked at the array with nervousness, excitement and awe. Anyone would be excited when it came to joining the final battle, knowing their rise was just around the corner, as was their destruction. And they were nervous as well at having qualified for this final battle. Besides the first-rate clans still holding their ranks, the third- and second-rate clans went through a shuffling. Few were those that rose to become first-rate with new and incredible power. The final battle, however, wasn't as cushy as the qualification round. Not that the entry fights were ever easy to begin with, but when taking the final battle into account, its cruelty was way worse than the qualification battles. Thus, it was easy to imagine how nervous these clans were feeling. That went farther for a particular underdog, the Luo clan of Windgaze City. With soaring demonic dragon Zhuofan on par with 6 dragons and 1 phoenix as vanguard, was there anyone capable of pushing them back? What was on the clan's minds, however, was whose vassal were they? For whose sake were they fighting for? The worry hit many hard. Look, the Luo clan! A shout snapped hundreds of heads in Luo Yunchang's direction as she led the Luo clan alongside Zhuofan. Finally healed, Luo Yunhai could now show his heroic aura and thirst for battle. A youth still. Yet the 5th tiger of Tianyu would never just be another face in the crowd. Their proceedings instilled a certain heavy air around the onlookers. The Luo clan was a veritable wolf strutting through a sheep herd. It was so bad that the people made a 10-meter wide space for them. Everyone feared getting close to this savage beast. And yet there were always exceptions. Big Brother Zhua, you're all here. Xuaningxiang skipped over hyped and waving. The Shui and Dong clans behind her earned not few raised eyebrows. What was their connection for these 2 clans to get so close with this wolf? But the appearance of Sword Marquis Abode's second young master, Xie Tianyang, making his way there as well, cleared all doubts. So they're allies. There was no shortage of rumors flying about the Luo clan, especially about its supporters. It so happened that Sword Marquis Abode was among these rumors, and today only validated it. This only worked to make the people even more envious of this upstart clan. So this is why the Luo clan jumped from 3rd to 1st rate and had a free path to the final battle. They have a house behind them. What kind of sheer dumb and rotten luck had they stumbled upon to have a house treat them so? Thinking of how mountains of wealth were literally flung at this 3rd-rate clan to reach such a position. If it were us in their stead, we'd have reached the moon by now. People always looked at the surface of things, unaware that the Luo clan of today wasn't because of the support of some houses. And it was what they were today that had caught the 7 houses' attention. It was painfully obvious to see who here was a dog or a man. Xuaningxiang gasped as she reached them with a sweet and innocent smile. Zhuofan's mouth quirked and he ruffled her hair. What are you doing here? Haven't you always hated watching people die? Luo Yunchang retorted as she watched him longingly. It was her first time in days that she caught Zhuofan show a carefree smile. But why wasn't it directed at her? Luo Yunchang sighed, feeling the ache deep within. It's fine, Big Brother Zhua. Shui clan is joining as well, and I'll be going too. Xuaningxiang giggled, brandishing her cute little fists to show her battle spirit. Shuafan shouted anxiously, "You can't, Ninger. This is a vicious battle, not a game. A girl like you has no place on the battlefield." "I don't care, because I know Big Brother Zhuo will be there to save me whenever I'm in danger." Xuaningxiang blinked her bright eyes, watching Zhuafan eagerly. She then looked at the thunder ring. "Whenever I'm in peril, the thunder ring will flicker and you'll appear. Isn't that right?" Zhuafan squinted, then nodded in defeat. "Fine. I'll look after you. You don't have to worry about that. You have Huangpu Qingtian to deal with. Ninger will be in my care." Xie Tianyang stormed next to Xue Ningxiang and held her shoulder, making a claim on her. Xue Dingtian only now arrived and smiled awkwardly. "I can't stop her. This girl is too stubborn. But don't worry, she will be in her brother's and young Master Xie's care, so she won't be in any trouble." On cue, Xue Lin and Xue Gang cupped their hands. Startled, Zhuafan gave them a once-over and nodded, despite the sense of loss taking hold on his heart. He felt that he and Ninger were only growing apart. With mountains rising between them, they could never return to the blissful times they shared in All Beast Mountain Range. This is for the best. He wanted to numb his heart, and severing those memories of their past encounters was for the best. With a deep breath, Zhuafan regained inner peace, like a stone-cold killer. He said to Xie Tianyang, "Take good care of her and make sure nothing happens." "It goes without saying." Xie Tianyang nodded. "Zhuafan, I'm coming as well." Luo Yunchang spoke up. Zhuafan raised an eyebrow. "Why didn't I say I and Yunhai and 10 guards are enough? Why do you want to come all of a sudden?" "How?" "No reason, you'll protect me so it'll be fine." Luo Yunchang batted her eyes. Shaking his head, Zhuafan said, "No, too dangerous." "Are you worried about me?" "That's not it." Zhuafan scratched his nose. "I'll be in danger if I have to constantly look after you." The others chuckled. Luo Yunchang glared as she kicked his shin. "You make me a dead weight while you said you'd protect Ninger? What am I then?" Zhuafan let her vent on his leg, stiffened for a second as his face went cold. Luo Yunchang kicked him once, but the second kick didn't come, for her heart grew forlorn the more she looked at Zhuafan. Zhuafan had closed off his heart under lock and key. He was like a prideful hero wishing to bear everything alone. "The 7 houses are here." The shout got everyone's attention. With Regent Estate in the lead, the 7 houses strutted forth. Chu Qingcheng was there as well. She glanced at Zhuafan only to see his face ever cold and impassive, which made her clench her fists. Grandmother was right. He is dead inside, not worth any woman's attention. Scoffing, she ignored him and walked behind grandmother with a frosty gaze. Marshal Dugu has arrived. Dugu Zhantian brought 10,000 soldiers to surround this area. He did it as a safety measure to instill order. But the thick scent of blood and steel shuddered the nerves of every disciple here, they who had only known life in the clan. Laughing, Dugu Zhantian stopped before Zhuafan and patted his shoulder. "Ha ha ha, kid. I was ready to come out and save you that day. But you have radiant stage abilities already. You hid them so well that you even had me worried." Marshal was there as well? Zhuafan raised an eyebrow. Dugu Zhantian nodded with a smile. "How could I not? Just the day before Huangpu Qingtian showed off his intent. I had to watch over you. Who knew, who friggin' knew you are both made of the same cloth? Monsters the lot of you. I was worried for nothing, ha ha." Laughing on, Dugu Zhantian turned to Luo Yunhai and gave him some warnings before leaving. The 4 tigers of Tianyu offered their encouragement as they left as well. Reaching the forefront, Dugu Zhantian surveyed the crowd of clans. "Please step before the array. The esoteric debate's final battle will begin shortly." Starting with Regent Estate, the 7 houses took the first line in order of the previous esoteric debate's ranking. Next were the clans, never even entertaining the thought of cutting ahead. The clans either stood behind their master or the house they wished to become a vassal of. Obviously, Regent Estate had the numerical advantage. But typical of Regent Estate, that didn't mean these clans were going to be accepted. While other clans with modicum of strength settled for standing behind other houses they wished to follow. Dong clan went behind Drifting Flowers edifices, and Shui clan behind Sword Marquis's abode. Shuafan glanced at Luo Yunhai and nodded. Luo Yunhai strutted under the shocked gaze of the people right abreast the 7 houses, next to drifting flowers edifices. The rest of the clan's members puffed up their chests right behind him. The shock was understandable. The crowd now realized that the Luo clan was no one's dog but stood on their own. But this was a direct challenge to the 7 houses' authority. Would they be able to handle it? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.